We're live, Mr. Chairman.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome everybody. Today is June 21st. This is our weekly county commissioner meeting. At this time, I please ask everyone to rise, say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Dave. We'll get right into our agenda. It looks like a big day today. First item up is an action item, the meeting minutes of June 14th.
I did
We'll
not see
approve the
anything.
agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, shoot, yeah. Sorry, thanks, Doug. Any additions to the agenda? If not, I'll stand for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, there's just one. The opportunity for general public to present to the commissioners should reflect that that's going to take place at 3 o'clock. There was an individual, Mr. Jacobs, that contacted my office.
So that's at 3.
Tell you, that was on June 7th. We scheduled Mr. Jacobs to have the opportunity to present to the commissioners regarding Silver Fox Trail. So that will be taking place at 3 o'clock.
So we're not really adding anything to the
You're not
agenda,
adding
we're just
anything. I
moving
just
it
wanted
around.
to make the
And then,
commissioners
yeah.
aware of when
Okay.
he was going to be presenting.
Were we gonna add in, or were we gonna discuss the Lake Fork property today? I thought that was something that was on the agenda to discuss, and it's not showing up. Is that in somewhere else? You said something about Brian Oakey was gonna discuss that with us.
The emergency, that,
That'd be part of the discussion on short-term rentals, maybe, or housing in general. We could-
I can give you an update there.
I was gonna say we
because-
could just amend that, maybe,
Okay,
say discussion of housing.
okay.
Why don't we do it at the end of the commissioner section? That work for you, Doug? Well, let's see, we got Treasure Valley and McPaws coming in. When you want to do that?
I think
Well, if we leave
at
it
11:30.
Just amend that to discuss housing, because I do have an update on the sewer modeling for
That'd
you
be
guys
great.
on the recycling center and what I'm doing this week on that.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to amend the agenda.
Make a motion that we amend the agenda to include a discussion of housing on the 11:30 slot.
Second.
Moved and second, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now we'll get into our agenda. The first item is an action item, meeting minutes of June 14th. And they looked really good to me.
I didn't see any changes, so I will approve the meeting, or move to approve the meeting minutes of June 14th.
I'll second that.
Moved and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item is also an action item. This is a 2020 SEMPG grant, Emergency Services Manager Juan Bonilla. Come on up, Juan.
How are you?
Good, how are you
Good,
doing?
good morning.
Good.
Tell me what SEMPG stands for.
That's a supplemental emergency management grant. Generally, the EMPGs are for staffing. Because of COVID, though, they had some funding available and created a supplemental EMPG for anything pertaining to COVID costs. What we did in the narrative here after talking to the clerk, Mr. Miller, we decided to put that towards public information and public information officer. That'll go from January 1st of 2020 or 21 to January 1st or December 31st of 21. So any costs occurred up to $10,761.68. We will pay 50% of that, so $5,380.84 will be what the grant will pay for, and then we pay the other $5,380.64, just like a regular EMPG grant would work. And I figured that would cover, even if we don't get to the 10,000, it would cover at least half the cost of continuing to use our public information officer to post things as things continue this year.
So one, can we do that? Because we're going to have to start having some conversations about what to spend the ARPA funds on. And we may want community to come in and do that, or to, put it out on social media, that type of thing. would that be something that this would be able to pay for, do you think? Or, because Mackenzie will need to help us get the word out on some of that kind of stuff?
You'd have to work that out with the clerk
Maybe.
on how you would. So this funding is specific to COVID, but depending on what's on her time card, and how you write the time card, as long as it's pertaining to what the grant narrative is. So anything she does for this year, I think there's only like 2,000 or something is what Doug had told me, 2,000 or 3,000 that has been spent thus far. So we're off from the 10, but we'd still only have to pay half of that.
It's actually a little bit more than that.
That's perfect. So
Let me,
it's just, I didn't want to let the money,
13,000.
I didn't want to let the money go away because it's
Absolutely.
half, at least half would be paid for. And I know there's going to still be some stuff she does throughout the year with COVID. So I was like, that's been one of the issues. How do we pay the PIO? And when I called the state, I said, can we use it for actual individual use for our public information officer? And they said, definitely, you could use it for that. So that's what we wrote the narrative to.
So we are not getting reimbursement through CARES anymore at all for the PIO because the emergency operating is not open. It's been shut down.
Yeah, so
didn't
since all
really
that is
think that through, I
sunsetted,
guess.
that's done. So this was just a supplement to add with some funding that was left over from that.
Perfect.
And all the counties got opportunity to put in. I don't think all the counties put in, but when I explained to the clerk, Mr. Miller, it was, well, let's put in for PIO and see what happens. And they said they would award it, and they did.
and we did receive some CARES funding for it when we were
Right.
able to apply for it. We'll just have to determine what has been reimbursed and what has not been reimbursed. But for fiscal year 2021, I think, Juan, you are correct that we've only expended
I can't remember the exact number. It was,
And just looking at what other counties are doing, I could see some opportunities there to be able to use some of those.
we were the first one to put in because as soon as it came out, I made a call that said, let's
Good job,
go for
Juan.
this.
Good
Let's go
job.
for it. Any money's good money. if we can
Absolutely.
get it.
So what we've expended in fiscal year 2021 for the COVID-related public relations is approximately $4,000.
And I'm sure we'll add some more recurring costs as the year comes, but at least
So we could use that.
We'll only
fund
have to pay
match
half of
this
that.
Other half of the grant.
Well, I think we would be able to apply for the grant and show what we have paid out.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so we've already matched it basically.
So what happens is that in December, I'll get all the invoices at the beginning of December. We'll submit, they'll review this thing, and then they'll tell us how much that we're responsible for and how much they'd be responsible for. But it's usually, they don't really, as long as the paperwork's in order, and we do that already for my contracted price, so that I know how to enter those correctly. So we'll get 50% for sure.
Okay, so I'd entertain the motion then to, I guess, accept the SEMPG grant supplemental.
I will make a motion that we approve the SEMPG grant
Second.
for 2020.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Nicely done, Juan. Come on up if you need something signed.
I need a signature for me, sir. Printed name and title. On the, it's on the, those two boxes, and then the date. One's a printed, one's a signature.
Like, have you been in contact with Brian Oakey on the ARPA funds? Because he was been doing a review for us, or should we just reach out to him and have him present next week?
Yeah, not recently, we have not. I mean, we were in close communication with him in the beginning,
Good job.
and I don't know if there's any new details to present at this time.
Thank you. Have a great day, Juan.
Hey, cool.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is also an action item. This is to review and approve the required documents for Idaho Department of Commerce agreement for the Yellow Pine Waters. Mary, you're in charge of this one. We got a whole bunch of stuff here for you.
Thank
Remember it.
you. So you guys were sent the necessary commerce documents for acceptance of the ICDBG funding. The first one is the sub-grantee agreement with Yellow Pine Water Users Association, which I need your approval on, and the project's environmental review record.
Do you have a concern? Let's see, are we the department, workers' comp and insurance? With them having all this workers' comp and insurance, and is that us have to do that, or is that them?
Them. Well, they're contractors.
Oh, they're contractors.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hard to find.
The engineering firm works with people all the time though, so it's gonna be easier for them than we probably think it is.
They've already reviewed it and they didn't have any issues with the agreement.
Okay, and then is the environmental report in here too?
Yes.
You wanna do that separate? Is that a separate motion for that?
It's
Yes, please.
So let's go ahead and approve this for Department of Commerce.
I move that we approve the Yellow Pine Water Association's, Water Users Association. Is it the whole, you've got like 3 things on here, or 2 things on here.
Two,
Can
yeah.
we just approve everything at once, or they're separate?
Doug, I don't know
Want
if you
them
need to
separate?
approve
That's all right. Just do them
separately.
Separately.
I think you could approve them all in one motion.
Okay. And I move to approve all required documentation, including the environmental review record for the Department of Commerce for the Yellow Pine Water Users Association grant.
Thank you.
Was that attachment C? Is that the environmental review you're talking about? Is on that document?
Yes.
Okay. Basically just says that the contractors are responsible for making sure that they're following all the standards and.
Yes. They have to
Second that.
go through all the environmental
Sure.
review process.
Yep, and I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, and I want to make sure everybody understands we're approving 3 things, is that correct? The Commerce Grant, the sub-grantee agreement with Yellow Pine Water Users, and the environmental review record.
Well, we've already approved the submittal of the grant. And there were 3 or 4 things that we had to get to Commerce for them to award the grant. So we'll send these documents to Commerce, completed documents, and then they'll send us the material to sign for award of the grant. So the next time I come back, you'll accept the funding.
Okay,
Mr.
So there's
Chairman,
just the 2 things.
It's the sub-grantee agreement and then the project environment review record.
And I think by saying just documents, it makes it inclusive of whatever's required to submit with that.
because I have 2 different sub-grantee agreements. That's why I'm a little confused.
I don't know why you have 2 sub-grantee agreements.
Or neither. But we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I think they were the same.
It's the same
agreement.
document.
Yeah, same document.
So I just
sent
got
twice.
sent twice.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's all right. So you have something to sign, or you have to get it on letterhead and then bring to us?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
so when you get it done, just bring it on in anytime.
Okay.
Okay,
How long
great.
does it take, wait, how long does it taking you to get to this point, Mary? With this document or with this agreement?
Couple weeks,
But I mean, how long have you been working on the Yellow Pine project?
ever since I got here.
Good job.
All right, the last item on this agenda is also an action item. This is the approval of the McCall Lot funding awarded for snowmobile sign IMG proposal for engineering services. Larry? What's that?
I'm sorry. I can take
be
this
Mary
also.
Okay. Go ahead, Mary.
So I'm kind of unprepared this morning, but this is for approval of what?
I don't know, I didn't put it on there. It'll probably be,
The snow removal.
yeah, they
It says, it's,
$12,000 for snow removal.
it says $2,400 for snowmobile safety signage and $11,000 for snow removal in parking areas. That make sense?
Yes, it does.
He's shaking his head no. Now I'm confused.
So they award the money and then you get the sub-grant agreement. You get the agreement that you sign to accept the funding, and that's what's in your packet. So we need your approval and signature on the sub-grantee agreement for that funding from McCall Lot funding funds.
Anybody have a further question? Taking the money from the lot funds, do good things with it.
Well,
Housing Pro.
there's two parts in the PACA local option tax funds agreement, which basically says that if they get the taxes, we get the money. If they don't get paid the lot taxes, we don't get the money. That's basically what it says.
Okay.
Right.
So I would entertain a motion then to approve the lot funding agreement, I guess,
Yes.
for snowmobile sign and engineering services. Where's the engineering services?
We didn't get the engineers.
IMEG proposal for engineering services. So
that's
we're gonna
next.
scratch that off.
That's a separate-
That's next.
That's next.
that's a whole different one.
That's not
Okay.
mine
Okay.
or ours.
I'll make a motion to approve the McCall lot funding for the snowmobile signage and plowing.
Second.
Moved and
Sorry
second.
about that.
Any more questions or concerns? And there's something for us, I think all of us to sign on that one. Maybe not. You have that one printed out as well?
I'll get it printed out if
Okay.
it's not in your packet.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, please, Sonny, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And thank you, McCall Law Tax. That's
Thank you.
great. And then the last one on the list is the IMEG proposal for engineering services, and I believe
So
this
this
is
is,
for the Lake Fork site?
As I say, I did not see this attachment.
so you don't have it because I'm questioning whether to do this, and I wanted to have a conversation with you guys. And this will be a little bit of an update on the 11:30 also, but, so IMEG is a company that is out of Montana that actually did Jug Mountain's septic and sewer out there. And they are willing to do a feasibility study for Valley County, starting in August. And it would cost us somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 to find out if we could do a system out there. DEQ's, what DEQ could, would consider for that site. And then kind of how many houses we could anticipate with that. The concern that came up this week is if we build sewer out there, who maintains that sewer long-term? And I have calls into both North Lake and the the Payette Lake Sewer and Water District to ask if they would take it over, which I don't think they will do, but they would maintain it. And so if we could get one of them to maintain it, then it comes down to who's the end user. If we can only get 15 or 20 homes out there, then the cost of the sewer on that site is so exorbitantly high every month that it doesn't make it worth doing it. And the feasibility study from IMEG may design a system that would be different than what Payette Lake Sewer and Water or North Lake would be comfortable taking over. And so I'm in this weird time of figuring out is the feasibility study. I reached out to JUB, who is Payette Lake's engineer. They're supposed to be calling me back. If they have time to do the feasibility study, it would make more sense to spend our money there versus doing a company that won't have anything to do with it at the end of the day. So
Right.
that end user design or whoever's going to maintain it almost needs to design this and give us our feasibility study. It's going to put us back 6 months. JUB is
Are they
just
familiar with the
fast.
pondless systems or the kind of the modern system that IMEG was talking about?
I don't know the answer to that without a little bit more further conversation. So
I was gonna say, I'm in favor of doing the feasibility study if that's what it takes, because I
just to
think
move forward.
I would like to move forward on it. If you want to spend a couple of days, which I commend you for doing that, running down the leads with both the two sewer districts as they stand.
Okay. Doug, let's put this back on next week. I will have more information after speaking with JUB this week. And I'm also meeting with the housing company on Thursday to see if if a nonprofit like the housing company can even build on septic or not. They've never built the affordable housing at all on a septic system. It's always been within a sewer district.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you could talk to the health district, Tom. You could probably answer a lot of your questions on that. And it won't cost you anything. I guess my concern has been all along, even if we could do this, is that long-term maintenance cost. Do we take that back out on the people renting each spot, or how does that gonna work?
So, and that's what normally happens. So you just pay your sewer bill, just like you would in the city. And all of that goes back toward the maintenance of that facility. And the question is that, we could spend $15,000 or $20,000 right now and we can get that feasibility done and have a conversation with DEQ because it's way beyond Tom's capacity.
Well, I think
even-
he could tell you the law as far as being able to do that many housing units on a septic system.
We've already gone above him.
Well, who'd you talk to?
And I'm trying to think who's his boss down in Boise.
Mike Reno?
Mike Reno. Mike Reno's already had this, yeah. And Mike is just saying, it needs a feasibility study and DEQ. This is really a DEQ question.
Right.
And so to me, I just don't want to spend that money without your guys' approval, to move forward with the feasibility portion of this. But we really can't move forward without having a feasibility study done, and JUB cannot start on this project for probably 6 months. So
How
these
far
guys
away
could
is
do it
North
by
Lake Shore
August.
from this site?
Well, they're in Donnelly. This is Lake Fork, so.
So they don't have to be contiguous.
I
Any
mean,
sewer,
which one in McCall or McCall Sewer? How far is
Payette
that?
Lakes.
Payette Lakes.
They don't have to be contiguous. You can have these little sub-systems out there. Just like, Payette Lakes used to maintenance Jug Mountain before they took on the city of McCall. So,
Just the
They're-
maintenance on the Blackhawk system. know, I mean, that
the
would-
same guy that does Jug Mountain. That is why you can, the sewer districts don't have to be contiguous. And as a matter of fact, Montana is now recommending these little sub-sewer systems. It's better on the environment not to have everything dump into one location. And so actually environmentally, this is a lot more friendly.
So stepping back for 1 second, where did we end up with the groundwater study for septic portion? If we were going to go that route,
I don't have that yet.
that's still
So,
pending.
yeah.
It wasn't looking good
This
though,
is
is that
Terry.
with the groundwater was fairly high in there?
So it was looking better than they had anticipated, but that could be a bad thing because it's a drought year.
Mhm.
And so they may make us monitor one more year. And that's why the conversation with the DEQ is so critical, is so the DEQ actually can take a look at what Josh did have and then compare it to what the drought reading may be and decide what we have to do.
Sure. And the nice thing about doing the sewer system is that would give us density and it would also give us capacity beyond that particular lot
Correct.
location
Yes.
into the Lake
Well, and I
Fork
agree
area.
with Dave. I think it's something that we need to get an answer to.
Mhm.
And even if there was outside other property owners that maybe would want to come in with us
Exactly.
on it, Help
And
share
that's
some
what
of
we're
that
trying to
cost.
design for. There are some contiguous property owners that may want to do some subdividing out in that area. So there may be an opportunity to partner. Matter of fact, there's a guy that owns 100 acres. It's on Pearson, and he is looking for connectivity to this site. So, I mean, it could be a good regional solution to the whole thing. It's just, I don't want to spend money and without letting you guys know that the feasibility study at the end of the day will give us information. I don't know if it's the right information.
Well, I think in this
But-
case, patience is the way to proceed. Let's get our ducks kind of more lined up before we spend that money and see what.
This
This JV
week,
guy
I will
can
make sure
look
and work
at.
on this and have more answers for you by next Monday.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that because I think we're on the right track.
Yeah,
And even if
We're
it
making
comes back
progress.
and says, no, this is not going to fly, at least we know.
yeah. And I will go over the sewer modeling with you at the 11:30 workshop.
I was gonna say, and I think that the maintenance, long-term,
No,
I don't want to say ownership, but I mean, to me, if we are building a system, we could hand off to a provider. That would be a pretty big carrot, it seems like.
And if the HOA, if it's big enough, they can take it. The HOA could actually own it and control it themselves. It's just if it's too small, then we
Doesn't make
have
sense.
an issue. And it's who maintains it at the end of the day.
Right.
But the same guy, Warren Drake, does both Blackhawk and Jug. So he has his own sub company. And I think he's working with the Yellow Pine group too. So there are people up here outside of the sewer districts that can do it. It's just, that would be the best case scenario. Okay, I will send that to you guys then and include that in the packet for next week for conversation.
Great.
okay, so we will postpone that one for now. We're going to move on down to our agenda. The next item we have is a presentation from Treasure Valley Transit. And I'm assuming Terry's online. Terry, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yep, we're getting kind of an echo though.
Actually, that was,
Would you like me to call in on the audio?
Give us just a second. Let's see if we can't stop something here.
Okay.
She just had called in on
Can you-
different
Can you hear me
sites,
now?
Chairman, so
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that's
Good
better.
morning. Okay, good morning, Commissioners and Doug. Thank you for this opportunity to present my budget request this morning. Treasure Valley Transit is requesting the same 30,000 from Valley County to meet our local match requirements. This is for continued funding and is not an increase from 2021. I'd like to note that ridership from January 2020 through December 2020 was 9,711 passengers on the Green Line. TVT did choose to continue full service throughout the COVID-19 pandemic for those who depend upon the bus service. We implemented the enhanced cleaning protocols from the CDC, and we are still maintaining those. A plexiglass barrier was placed between the driver and passengers. And the federal guidelines require that all bus passengers still wear the mask through September 13. I did provide our most current profit and loss, which shows the total project costs and the matching funds. And on my budget sheet, where I outline where the different funding sources come from, I would like to also note that with the CARES Act funding, we eliminated fares to prevent the handling of money. So we do receive CARES Act funding for that at this time. PPE was provided, and we actually have enough for years to come. We were able to implement an hourly hazard pay for drivers, and this was also covered through the CARES Act. And we were very fortunate that there was no COVID-19 illnesses to our staff or drivers. So we believe that the cleaning protocols really helped during this difficult time. The city of McCall, the McCall local option tax, as well as the city of Cascade and the Donnelly local option tax, I've met with all of them.
Came in a separate
So
sheet.
we're still able, so the budget shows exactly what we're looking at. We have seen a drastic reduction in our Medicaid dollars, which are what offset any shortages in the area that we may have. So we are experiencing, a difficulty there. But at this point, we're happy to say that even though we saw the ridership decrease by 43%, we're still seeing that increase now. There is a challenge with the mask mandate that's still in effect federally. Some passengers would prefer not to wear it at this time. And so we hope to see ridership continue going forward when that's lifted as well. And if you have any questions for me, I gladly take them at this time.
Okay, Terry, hold on one second. We are really trying to find you in our email system here. Doug, can you do you have an email? Dave and I can't find their budget in our email
I think it came later. I saw it. Just can't
I
remember
saw
if it
one
came
from Shepherd's
Treasure
Home, but
Valley.
I don't remember seeing this one.
+3.
I've got Shepherd's Home. El, do you have their budget in front of you?
Nope,
We're
I couldn't find
struggling.
any of that.
Okay, so I don't know that we got your budget. I apologize, Terry. Give us just a minute and let's see if we can get that in front of us.
I don't see it either.
Not in the packet.
We got the Shepherd's Home separately, but I don't remember seeing this one.
I can
Terry, do you have your budget on your screen? Can you share it with us?
Let me. I'm not sure how to do that right now with the way I've got it set up here. Let me.
Are you on Teams?
Yes, I am. Hold on, if you don't mind 1 second,
Oh, hurry.
then I will see what I can do.
Pause may be on. Is Mike Pause calling in too, Doug?
They're coming in.
They're coming in?
They're running late.
Okay.
Apologize. I thought I had that with that same email from Shepherd's Home.
Yeah. Well, and
I don't even have that. Where do you guys have that?
Pause is in there, but it's not called McPause.
It's in the packet from Gabby.
Yeah, there was a second packet that came in that had
Oh, add to.
Shepherd's Home.
That's all the sheriff stuff.
Let me get this off here. Right here.
So the commissioner's packet came on 6/16, and that has McPause in it. And then the
Did it do it?
the
Are you
Senate-
seeing it, commissioners, up on your screen?
We do see a letter now.
Okay, this is the letter, and then I'll go to thank you, Miranda. Oh, I need to rotate it. Let's see. Rotate view. Upside down. We're getting there.
Perfect.
We're all looking upside down.
Are you seeing it correctly now?
Perfect.
Shepherd's Home came from Doug on 6/18.
Yeah.
Presentation of the Valley County. Okay, so
Okay,
now
well,
if you will just make that a little bit larger. Can you?
Poor Sherry.
Sorry, but yeah.
Um,
You chairs. So your request to us then is 30,000?
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
So what this shows on this sheet, can you see it okay there?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. What I started out with was the ridership counts to show where we were there and what the actual, this is off of the profit and loss. It's on the next page in more detail, but it shows what our total budget, what is, for that time period. And it shows that we did receive 1,526 in fares, but that was right prior to the pandemic. So it shows what we need to achieve, which is in the local match category, and this is for the whole McCall service, the 242,751. So the actual funding request I have showed here is what I have asked for the city of McCall, also through the McCall local option tax, the Valley County funding, what we received from Brandage Mountain, and then what I've asked for the city of Cascade and the city of Donnelly. And then I do know that I'm going to receive approximately 13,186 through CARES Act funding for the loss in fares. So this is my total budget, what I'm anticipating that we will be spending. And this is where we had eliminated the fares. This is where the CARES Act comes in and replaces that.
Okay,
So this is my anticipated budget and what I've asked from all the other jurisdictions. I already know from the city of Donnelly that we've received the 5,000, but they've done that through 3,000 confirmed and 2,000 contingency based on those revenues coming in.
Barry, this is Elt. I just have a question on the fares. Right
Yes.
now, if looking at everything, it's about $25 a rider, and your fares brought in a little over 1,500. Have you guys talked about maybe increasing the fare?
Let me explain. We normally receive about 12,000 a year in fares, but through the CARES Act funding, the federal government asked us to eliminate fares to avoid the handling of cash on board the vehicles,
Oh, I see.
and they're paying that. So as long as the federal side wants us to do that, we'll do that because it's a benefit to the passengers while the pandemic is still ongoing.
and it looks like last year Valley County gave you 27,500. So this is an increase in request.
No, it's because of the way the budget year came out. The profit and loss for me to get it to everybody in time was from February through January.
Got
But
it.
the actual fiscal year is October through September. So we did receive the 30,000 last year.
Terry, the routes are going to remain the same? All services to the employees of Valley County are the
Correct.
same?
We
Can
have
you tell
not
us?
altered the routes in any way throughout this past year. And that's why we chose to remain fully operational, was because we knew that there were those that depended on the service.
Right.
Barry, this is Dave. I was just wondering, have you guys reached out to Tamarack Resort as far as a way to get some of their employees and guests in from the Donnelly stop to the resort? Are they interested in putting any money towards that, or in years past there was Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We have not reached out to them since I think it was over a year ago. But what we have been doing is working closely with the Brandage Mountain. So they recently went in on a bus with the city of McCall.
Bluebird,
their
we've seen it.
winter service. Pardon?
I said it's the
Oh, yeah.
Bluebird. We've seen it. It's
Yes,
good.
the Bluebird Express. So that just started over Memorial Day weekend. That service, it's only on Fridays and Saturdays.
Sure.
For the
And I was gonna say,
McCall
Where in the
service.
hell it is?
I think that's a great partnership. It'd be interesting to see if Tamarack was interested in working with you guys as well. They might be able to provide some funding. The other question I had is, I think we had talked a little bit last year about advertising and try to just get the word out a little bit more about how the routes are set up and how easy it is to use especially in the McCall area where there's two different routes that are serving that area. But even sending information over to like our PIO would be a great help as far as getting maybe a little more ridership on these routes.
Okay, I've got some good news, Commissioner. The Idaho Transportation Department has just started a marketing campaign for all of the systems throughout the state of Idaho for that very reason. because we know there was some fear about being on board public transportation during the pandemic. So they're able to assist us with some marketing measures, PSAs, looking at local radio stations, and we've had several meetings with them on that. They're hoping to roll that out. I wish it would have been this summer, but they're still in the development phases. So we're assuming that that's going to start toward the end of summer, possibly late August, early September. But they're putting a lot of funding, CARES Act funding, into that very reason. So we want to, hopefully that'll enable us to do more in getting the word out. And then with our limited staff too, who are doing the best that they can, but it's often difficult. The one thing I do want to note too is that the staffing shortfall we're experiencing in our driver crew as others are experiencing in the hospitality industry.
Well, I know that the bus is really critical. Our housing needs are, I mean, that supports the housing because a lot of people that can't afford their rent right now also can't afford a vehicle. So it's critical that we have this form of transportation between the communities, so.
Thank you.
All right, Terry, thanks. We'll see what we can do and we'll let you know.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much, commissioners, and thank you, Doug,
Okay.
as well. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, the next victim up is McPaws. Amber, come on up. The mic.
Good morning. How's
Good morning.
everybody?
Good to see you again.
You too.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies for interrupting you, Amber. That information, I thought it was in the packet regarding the McPaws presentation. I just sent that email on to you
No problem.
at this point in time.
I did get that one.
I thought I got that one as
Did
well.
you get that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did get the report.
Is that my report that I sent? Okay, great. Yeah. Good. So if
Valley
you,
County
so I, as typical for that annual report, I kind of summarized the accomplishments that McPaws had for the previous year, as well as I also included information since I had it for the first quarter, as well as far as animal intakes and just services offered by the shelter. In 2020, 44% of the animals that were brought in to the shelter were from Valley County, from pet owners residing within Valley County or within the city of Cascade or the city of Donley. And I include those two since Valley County Sheriff kind of acts as, I don't know what the terminology is, covers the Cascade and Donley. So, I think that McPaws has enjoyed a wonderful partnership with Valley County for a lot of years. We're always, I come here every year and I never get tired of saying how grateful that we are and how lucky we count ourselves to have such a good relationship, because that is not always the case with animal welfare organizations and the municipalities that they serve. So we greatly appreciate that. The funding that Valley County provides is incredibly important to shelter operations. I think we try to operate because the way McPaws operates, we try to fill a need that exists in our community that if we were not able to fill would have to be provided in some other mechanism. So the fact that we're here, we're established, we already have such a great track record and established level of trust with our community really works well for us so that we can operate as efficiently and effectively as possible and even go above and beyond what the general, basic animal impound services would look like and offer additional things like adoptions, foster care, spay-neuter services, and things like that. So yeah, I just think that, again, it's been a wonderful partnership. We're happy to serve Valley County and the residents of Valley County and hope that you guys will continue to support our efforts. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Megan, in your letter that you came out, you guys experienced a revenue loss of $150,000 from the thrift store and some of the events you had to cancel. Can you kind of give me a rough estimate of what your total budget was then for that year?
For income.
Yes.
So, okay, you're testing my memory. So things have been in flux since the budget changed with the acquisition of the vet hospital in 2020, which we started the first practice in May. But typically, the annual income for the thrift store is gross income is around like 100 to 150,000 a year, and we were closed for a full month and a half. So we lost a fairly significant amount of revenue just from being closed. And then with the auction for the animals event that was canceled last year, we typically will gross around $60,000 to $70,000 in fundraising revenue. We do that every other year, so it's not to kind of place an undue burden on our donors, but it's a big one for us, and we didn't have that. Oktoberfest, we typically bring in around $30,000. We didn't have that. Luckily, we were able to really bust our buns and get we got a PPP loan that was then forgiven, and we received some very generous operational funding from the ASPCA to support for COVID relief. Does that answer your question?
Well, I still didn't get the bottom baseline, kind of your total income that you took in last year. So maybe
It was over $1 million.
maybe what we could do is request that to kind of look at
Yes.
that budget
Yes, absolutely.
and see. The other couple other questions I had, do you receive any funding from Adams County or Idaho County?
We do not. We do not, yeah.
So, and I would also like to see your projections. Now that you do have the veterinary clinic, we have concerns because Valley County cannot give to a for-profit entity. So is it one entity? Because now you are a for-profit entity. Is it a separate entity for the shelter versus the veterinary clinic?
No, it's all one entity, and the fact that any of the profits that are generated by the vet hospital go back to fund the general operations of the overall nonprofit organization. They don't go back to individual like stockholders or board members or employees. It goes back to fund the general mission of McPaws. It does that the nonprofit umbrella of our organization does include the vet hospital operations. So it is technically part of our nonprofit
Do
organization.
they do other outside vet services for private folks?
Yeah, we're open for public use. It's similar to, the model is similar to the thrift store in that we use that to generate additional revenue that comes back to fund our organization so that in times, like we had last year where we want to be diversified so that we don't, if we have, I think I've heard the story, it was before my time. At one point in time, McPaws, the doors were going to close. We had a garage sale, I think, or something like that, and it saved us. We never want to be in that position again where the services that we offer are threatened. So we felt like it was in our best interest to try to diversify the income that we generate. And so just like the thrift store, that money comes back to fund operations. The benefit is that by doing those activities, like the thrift store takes on, and it's not just about money that comes back to the shelter. It's about, we have a thriving cat adoption program at the thrift store. The staff there has developed a program that will allow us to put together items and that have been donated to us that we can provide to people who are experiencing hardship. Home fires are something that, we put together bedding, clothes, things like that for people. We give away winter coats, when people need it, things like that. And the same with the vet hospital. It allows us to offer veterinary services to pet owners that would otherwise not be able to get it. And the whole idea there was that we were going to be able to expand the capacity for that because we've been at our ceiling at the shelter for a little while. We just need more room, more space, more resources to do it.
And remind me, I think we pay you guys $15,000 a year?
Yes, sir.
And is that what you're requesting this year?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
We also don't want you to close your doors, but there does come a time where we have to look at taxpayer dollars and say, where's the highest and best use for those? You guys do a fabulous job in the community, and I'm so proud of you for actually landing on your feet and making growth. And sometimes it becomes the point where you're sustaining yourself now, and you may not need the support of other taxpayer dollars. And that's what we need to know. You know, where is the best use of county funds, and how are you doing, and what are your projections for the future?
Yeah, and I think that this board will do an excellent job of analyzing and determining like what the best use of your dollars are. And if, just to add, you know, if you could take into consideration the fact that, you know, there is like, you know, and again, like we're not asking for additional funds. We know that these dollars are so important and go and have to be used to do so much good in our full community. But the fact that, you know, if MCPAWS did not exist, where would the burden to help? I mean, you know, pets and pet owners, which, you know, if you get down, I think it's so much more than this, but if you get down to the basics of it, it's a health and sanitation and public safety issue. So what would happen if we were not here? And so at the very least, you know, offering the support, I feel like the support that we do get from Valley County, it really does show that the county values what we do for the community and values the fact that, you know, that, lack of a better way to put it, like that y'all don't have to do it yourselves, you know, so that we can be there and be supporting in that method. But I totally, I don't envy your job in determining, like, this is always, I always at like, you know, City of McCall and we actually, it's a good point on that note. We don't apply for lot funding from the City of McCall or the City of Donley anymore because of that exact reason. We feel like we've kind of been able to move on from that so that we can leave those funds for other groups that it might benefit a little bit more. But I'm always right behind Treasure Valley Transit. Like, so I hear her presentation like several times every single year. She does a great job too. And, you know, I know that these and the lot presentations, man, like there's so much need in this community. And so I do hear and respect that you guys have a difficult
No, I
decision
appreciate
to
that
make.
too.
Well, and I was going to say, one of the things that I think is really important for us to understand too is that we were in danger of losing 2 of the veterinary clinics that were operating. I mean, Dr. Hawkins was gone. He was done. He was ready to close the doors. And so I commend you guys for stepping in at that point. I think it's probably been a little bit more than you bargained for based on the chance.
I didn't know there was going to be a global pandemic. Nobody told me that I should schedule for that.
I've
Hey,
been
I got
calling for
appointed right before
appointments, and
then.
I can tell that you guys are very busy right now.
Yeah, and
So-
it's been a little bit of a rocky road, you know, but I can't tell you how proud I am that we're functioning. We hired a full-time veterinarian, which is no easy task in this climate right now. There's 34 full-time veterinarian jobs listed on the AVMA website just for Idaho, just for the state of Idaho right now.
And he's still living in the trailer behind the clinic.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he'd be crazy to try and buy something right now, you know? So he is. I mean, I'm not trying to jinx myself, but I did submit an offer letter to another full-time veterinarian just yesterday. I'm hoping that I should have that signed in my little hands by sometime this week. So the fact
housing.
well, she is from Riggins. She has family in the area. So
nice.
like we had some miracle. She walked, and that's what, I mean, I don't want to get like too woo-woo, but we constantly have people walking through our door to say, can I help? You know, I like what you're doing. And that's exactly what she did. She called, and I happened to be covering at the vet hospital randomly and answering the phones, and which I will do. And she called and she's like, hey, I'm a veterinarian. I've been practicing in Butte, Montana for the last 15 years from Riggins. I want to come home. Like, are you hiring? You know, I was like, yes, please. Tried not to like sound too desperate, you know? Don't want to scare anybody away. But yeah, we kind of had this moment where because the shelter veterinarians that we contract with are retired veterinarians from the Boise area. Dr. Hackus and Dr. Houlihan have worked for many years serving this community, and they both had their practices for sale. And we had this thought that, what if there was not a veterinarian here? Like, what would the organization do? What would the community do? And so we felt like this was well within the bounds of our mission to say, okay, we're going to step up and take this on so that, you know, nobody has to go without. And, I think Dr. Hackus and we made sure both that they were both supportive of our efforts because we weren't going to do it if they weren't. Checked with Dr. Rubel here in Cascade, and he was like, yeah, more the merrier. Like we need it. We need help, And frankly, if somebody else wanted to come in and open a vet hospital down the road, I would get on my knees and thank God because there's so much need because of all the new people that are coming to town, as well as the existing clients. We're an animal community, and so it's been challenging, but I see hope. People can come back into the clinic now. Like that's a huge deal. They don't have to call us every single time they want something. So that's big.
Well, and I appreciate your candid approach. I would still like to see your total budget.
Of course, yeah. And I'm sorry, I should have
And the other
included
thing
those.
That's you got to keep in the back of your mind is there was a couple instances last year where Dr. Rubel handled some car wreck dogs and took care of them, and basically the animal ended up being euthanized because they were too badly hurt,
Yeah.
and nobody wanted to pay that bill. So we have other bills that we handle for animal issues in the county besides to you guys, just so that you know that.
Yeah. Was the animal was the owner involved or was it a stray animal?
The owner basically went back to Montana, left the dog here and wouldn't pay the
Yeah.
bill, and the dog eventually, they had to put it down because it was too serious.
Yeah.
And so he needs to be compensated for that, and we ended up doing that through the sheriff's department.
Sure. Well, and for the record, I would have happily helped, and that owner could have surrendered the dog to McPaws, and we could have then taken on legal ownership and been responsible for those bills because we have funds dedicated that our donors that are set aside that our donors provide to help with above and beyond veterinary care for shelter animals. So I had no idea. I wasn't contacted about that, and I would love to. I mean, we're not that far away from Cascade. I'd love to be able to help. That would have been totally within our ability, and then we could take that burden off of you guys as well
Well,
because
and the
it's
other
a
issue
challenging
that
situation.
most people don't know about, especially being out in the country and a big landowner, is people drop off stray cats all the time. They're going by and out the door it goes, and away they go.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of a chronic issue that's been
Yeah.
going on since I was little.
Long time.
Long
Yeah.
time.
Since the history of cats. Yeah.
And they don't last long in this end of the
No.
valley because of all the
That's why-
predators, but
We feel like the spay neuter work that we do for we call it community cats, a lot of
community
times
cats, I like that.
a lot of times they're like nobody's cat, but then they're everybody's cat, like, oh yeah, he comes over, we call him Fred, we feed him, and then, oh yeah, we haven't seen him, he's George, we haven't seen him for a couple weeks. We try to offer services so that we will always spay and neuter those cats for free. A lot of times they're not friendly, so we can't humanely house them at the shelter, but if we can fix them, vaccinate them, we tip their ear and we re-release them, then we know at least they're not contributing to the overpopulation, they're not contributing to disease, and they can live out a
I
more,
might have to contract with you guys to do some bowl control. I could use a few stray cats at my neighborhood.
I know a guy that can hook you up, or I know a lady, I should say, that can hook you up, yeah. So
They have to be
I'm
self-sufficient. though.
allergic to them. Can you make them an allergy-free cat?
you can get one of those that don't have any fur. They're creepy, but,
Ooh.
Yeah, no.
So it's like the what we do in the community, we have been so blessed because now it's not just about waiting for the stray dog to come in and then trying to send it home. And if we can't send it home, we euthanize it. We have moved beyond that model by so many light years that you cannot even see it in our rearview mirror anymore. And I'm so proud of that. And that is the way the field is going. Animal welfare is such an exciting, field to be in because we're doing new things where we never thought let's just, instead of taking all these cats in and euthanizing them, how about we just fix them, vaccinate them, let them live their lives out. And usually they almost always have caretakers. And it solves so many problems, how about we try these different things and see what happens. And almost always they work really, really well, and we're able to really do a lot of positive good here in our communities. So
Thank you for all you do.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Hopefully we can cover it. It just kind of depends when we get down to the bottom and how much money we got left.
I'll send financials and probably later this afternoon, okay?
Sure, just a PDF or something.
Yep.
Something pretty
No,
general.
PDF or Excel?
Doesn't matter, either one.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Andrew.
much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Okay, perfect timing. We're going to move on. Our next presentation is from Shepherd's Home. And I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
She's
Lori?
yeah, practically lives here.
I
Popular.
don't know if you've ever been in before.
Right.
live here.
I was gonna say I saw one of them yesterday on the river and another one walking around
I
this
know,
morning.
that's, he mentioned he did. Thank you for
Welcome.
having me here
President
today.
McCall, Donley School Board.
And Commissioner Hasbrook, I believe we've bought hay from you before.
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yeah, you know my husband, Scott. Sorry if I seem a little frazzled. My tire blew out on Roseberry Road, and thank goodness for reliable sons because Nick came and picked me up, and he's hanging around downtown. I hope Scott got a hold of you.
He did, thank you.
Good, thank you. So it's a family effort here today. You should have documents. We sent you the Shepherd's Home profit and loss sheet, a balance sheet, our Christmas newsletter, and a one-page fact sheet regarding the Shepherd's Home. This is my first time here, and I know Mark DeYoung usually comes before the board, I'm used to a board before the commissioners. The Shepherd's Home, as you probably well know, has been in operation since 1998. We have two very reliable, great house parents. They've just signed a 2-year contract for us, which is really it's a catch-22 for us to keep the home running because we need the house parents to be the really core of our home. For the year of 2020, we had about 600 plus bed nights. A bed night is a night for every night a child is in the home. That's how it's counted. That's how the Health and Welfare Department requires us to count. At this juncture, we have over 300 bed nights already, so we are, well on our way to that point and past that, which once again is a catch-22 because it's a reflection of what's happening in our community. If we have more children, it talks about more dysfunction that's in the community, but it also exemplifies what the Shepherd's Home can do for these children and families. So our mission is to serve the children of the community, to provide a safe home that's a family-centered environment for them. It's an influx of kids in and out. As you know, through the state, I don't know if you do know, but they have changed sort of the rules and regulations with health and welfare. They're looking for reunification of families. So in the past, we have had children for years and years until they exit out at the age of 18. Now what we are trying to do to provide a home for the kids as a safe haven while families are being worked with, parents are being worked with to learn how to parent. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and these kids become adopted. Sometimes it takes a short amount of time, and they're sort of in transition. And for the most part, we will have kids from anywhere 6 months to a year. So at the present, we have some new families. We confidentially, I can't speak of really how many and who they are, but we're full, and that becomes difficult at times for the county and for our community because we are the only home of its like in Valley County. Very few foster homes, and we're there. We not only provide a refuge for children as a foster home family, but we help with emergency placement, emergency care. We do parenting skills for parents in the community, even though they may not be associated or connected with health and welfare and a foster facility. This year, during COVID, it was interesting because we hired our new house parents just in 2019 prior to the pandemic. But we were able to take kids in through the year, even during the pandemic, and we were able to work that out. So we're fortunate for that, and the children are fortunate for that. We have also, if you read through our fact sheet, worked in conjunction with a few other nonprofit agencies in McCall and the county to sponsor what's called the Tutor Mobile, where during COVID, because as you know, we had hybrid model of school classes, they went into the community, they went into the different neighborhoods following the bus routes, and we were able to tutor children, and we received a grant with that. So we try to be more far-reaching where it's beyond the home too, because our mission is to help children in the community. So we have several examples of that. If you look at our profit and loss sheet, you see our income pretty much derives from grants and or things like the Rite Aid points and that sort of thing. We have a working board. If you sign up to be on the board of directors with a Shepherd's Home, you pull up your sleeves and you work. Know that I've been with them since 2008. Stepped down as president just about a year ago. Just a lot was going on with the school district, so I needed to sort of center it. And we have Ellen McKinney as our new president for another year. But once again, we have a variety of representations of board of directors, and we work closely with the foundation board too. So I'm open to any questions that you do have. Before that, though, I do want to thank you for your past support. It has meant a lot to us, and I hope we can continue to have it.
So Lori, just so I understand, are you still requesting the 25,000 again? Is that what you're asking for?
I believe we received 10,000 last year.
According to your document, it was 25,000. Oh, wait a minute. It's a tricky eye here.
Okay.
Profit and loss was
Nope, you're right.
5,000 from last year.
5,000.
I believe we received 5,000 for a few years, and last year we were awarded 10,000.
And it was a roof project or something. I
Yes,
believe.
and we did do the roof. We had a lot of volunteer labor with that, and we received a discount on all the materials. And so it was a roof project. We, through donations and volunteer labor, we were able to redo the kitchen. And now we're working on the bathrooms that haven't been, if you've been in the home, if you come to any of our open houses, these are 2 modular units that were put together from 1996 through 1998 when the doors opened. And they were meant to last, they weren't meant to last 20 years. So we're continually having to maintain them and fix them up. So a lot of this goes to our M&O. We need new siding, we need new windows. We just take one thing at a time. And as we have the funds, they are prioritized and we go through and fix. And again, with a lot of labor, donated labor, and our community has been so good about giving us materials at cost.
Lori, I'm looking at this, and so my understanding now is you are partnering with Health and Welfare,
Yes.
and all of the placements need to come through Health and Welfare.
At this point, yes.
So how many children, well, 2 questions for you. First of all, how many children from Valley County are being housed at Shepherd's Home now?
At this point, they are all from Valley County.
They're all from Valley
Yes.
County. So
Yes.
no out-of-state, or no out of
we have
area
not had
kids.
out-of-state children for years.
Okay, so it just has to come as a placement through Health and Welfare.
At this point, it has to come as a placement. We have had an MOU with Health and Welfare that was in existence. I believe I wrote it in 2010, and a couple of years ago they changed regulations and said we no longer will honor this MOU. We have different regulations. However, there is I can't remember the acronym, but there's a new federal regulation that went into effect in January of 2021, where the state has to change their regulations, every state does, to continue to receive federal funds. So different organizations, of which we are one, can take in children that don't necessarily have to come through Health and Welfare. It's the FSSAP. So we're trying to work with representatives in the state so we can become that either separately or in partnership with someone who's already been there. So we're hoping to move that train along.
I'm not seeing income from Health and Welfare. That was,
The income from Health and Welfare follows a child. So what we have done in order to maintain complete separation of our work as the organization, as the permitted organization through the state, and this is the regulation, when the foster parents take in a child, there is a certain amount of money that follows them. It goes directly into the foster parents. So we don't see it. The money does not pass through the home.
if you have children living at the home though, does Health and Welfare help support those children that are in the home?
None other than that one payment. That's where we come in. And if we have children who are in there even temporarily, and it has been in the past, coming in and out, the private placements, we completely pay for that.
I'm still not seeing a line item from health and welfare. I mean, if they have to be referred through health and welfare.
Yes.
And you get payment from health and welfare.
We don't receive the payment. The check goes directly to the foster parents.
Even though the child might be with you guys for 6 months before they
Correct.
get fostered out?
That is correct.
So
That is correct.
all
They
time
changed that
that they-
regulation.
Wow, all
Yes.
time spent there is
Yes.
then just grant funds.
Yes.
Wow, health and
That's
welfare.
that's why we're a working board.
Wow,
So
That's crazy.
having worked with health and welfare for many years, they're following the regulations that are handed to them that are handed to us. So this is the hand we are dealt with at this time.
Well, Lori,
things
how many
change.
kids are in there now, just on an average? Give us an estimate.
Anywhere from, I would say, 5 to 6 kids.
Okay.
Right now, we have capacity with an exclusion from health and welfare for up to 8. We'd like to keep the number at 6 because that's a lot for one family to have. And when we've had our emergency placement, we have enough room that's been decided that we can have up to 12. But once again, it's fluid. The kids are in and out.
Sure, sure. That's really good to know as far as you guys getting reimbursed. You don't get that money goes to the
We get
foster
nothing.
parents.
We receive nothing
So
from
this
health
is
and
really
welfare.
run all on donations
Yes, it
and
is.
grants.
that's crazy. I mean, if you guys weren't there, what would they do with those children?
That's there was a time, I believe it was about 2012, that, Mark and I were both on the board. We'd look at each other and think, can we make payroll? We better write another grant, so.
I remember that time, yeah.
It was scary. So we have a good administrative assistant. Fortunately, a few of us have had a grant writing background, and we have a generous community. And, thank you for your support too. And we strongly do believe that we're very careful with our funds. We feel we need to be good fiduciaries of the public money, both private and public. So we're everything goes before the board. An expense over $500, be it what it may, we have to discuss it and decide.
Well, and I'm looking at this, comparing them to some of the others we've seen this morning, and I think we need to reprioritize some of our feelings here on this board. But like I tell everybody else, we'll kind of see what's left at the end and make our decisions then.
I understand.
But I think you guys do a great job. I didn't realize your budget was so small.
We make it stretch.
Make it stretch. You guys do a
We
great
do.
job of that.
We
So
do.
Thank you very much for coming in. Anything else you need to share?
No, that's all I have.
Any more questions for Lori?
Good to see all of you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Thanks
you
for
very
coming
much.
in. Appreciate seeing you guys.
Okay, we're going to move on down to our agenda. Our next item is not an action item. This is a workshop to discuss the move of the Valley County Dispatch to the EOC Center. Sheriff, Kelly, Dave, guys, come on up. You want to sit at the table? We got all the information this morning. So we're kind of playing catch up, but I think we're caught up.
We got it. There's a lot of information in there.
There's a lot of information in here.
Wow. We got it. We got it.
Makes for some good Sunday night reading.
Yeah, it's just what you wanted to do.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to start with the first PDF, the one from, what is it, Zetron?
Zetron.
And my question is, I think it's, let me look here, 170 some. Does that include the furniture or not? That's what I couldn't figure out because they were,
That's the radio and installation of the radio.
That was what was hard for me was
Yeah.
to put all of this together. It would have been nice, like in an Excel spreadsheet. This is, this is this, so for a final dollar figure. So what is that final dollar figure, including everything?
Well, the final dollar figure would be roughly almost
And does that,
$173,000 for the radios, installation of the radios, 1-year warranty, the 1-year maintenance on it, moving everything over there. $51,000 for the furniture, set up, the build, everything. $1,000 for incidental with the electrical, because in that proposal, you'll see that I added an extra email that I got from Russ Bassett, which would go with furniture that we would have to move because that furniture is so specialized for 911 equipment. We want to make sure that that electrical over there. We want to rebuild that building. So up to where we have an electric. Radio techs and did not include the phone stuff in there to move that because we've already done that. We have
We have
a
a
grant
grant.
money sitting waiting for us
Does that
And-
include the bathroom? I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
without the bathroom.
without the bathroom.
And that was my, we need to get to those details, but Sheriff, you were talking last time about using some of the 911 funds to cover some of this. Do you have a figure that you're comfortable with?
I believe we can use it for the furniture.
Okay?
We were told that we could use the 911 funds for all the radios and the furniture from Brian Oakey.
He did say, yeah, when he read the code, please do. I don't think that in the meetings at the PSAP, they really like for you to use that for radios. I believe that if our council says that good, I don't believe that we should spend everything we have in the trust.
Well, I guess my question to you is, we have like 400 and some thousand in that trust. Can we go 250,000 or 200? How does that work?
Okay, so how it works is we have our current budget, our 21 budget. At the end of the fiscal year, in that budget that we've spent, you resolution that money out of the current trust. So there really technically isn't that money there to use, all of that money, because about 200,000 will come over. to
About
pay-
200,000, okay?
Yes.
To
So,
pay
so we
for-
budget and then you resolution it back to the general fund.
So that
Is it-
450 that's in there right now is monies received this year? Because
No,
we would
that's
have been,
So there's carryover, because it's a trust. So the money's there. And then anything that the monthly payments that come in from the phone companies and goes into that trust. And then there's a portion of that that gets sent to the state for quarterly, between 8 and 9 grand quarterly for the grant fund, because the extra 25 cents. We collect $1 for the county, 25 cents to go into the grant fund. We actually get to keep 1 penny of that, from each 25 cents, and the phone companies do, so actually 23 cents goes back into the state fund for grants. We have gotten grant money that far exceeds what we ever got. Those counties, nearly every county, though Ada County doesn't, a couple others do not seem to have enough funding coming in, so that money goes in and we have to bring some.
so if we chose though this year not to transition it out at the end of the year and just use the 300 out of there, it still leaves you 150. And then we just leave that in there for carryover instead of taking some out to the general fund. That
I
would
don't
work
think, I
also.
don't think it works that way. It's built up in a trust, and then we have expenses against it every quarter, $9,000 to $12,000 or more. And then we, at the end, like she said, at the end of the year, we take a resolution and take it out of that trust. However, I think there's, and I want to know what your figure is that you're comfortable that we could use for this project out of that fund.
So I need clarity on that though, El, because what you just said was what I just said. So if we transition it out of the trust at the end to the general fund, what does it matter if we spend it for this purpose and we just don't transition any out at the end of the year? So there's,
You mean, in other words, to pay the 911 expenses out of general fund?
Okay,
no, pay
No, I'm
911 out of
losing-
911.
okay. So
I'm losing you.
for fiscal 21, you're going to resolution that money out that was spent, that legally can come, out of that. And then you're going to then request X number of dollars out of the trust right out for the move. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm
So
saying
you
is
don't
right
transfer
now,
it. It's two, it would be two separate, to keep it clean, it would be two separate,
Resolution.
ordinance, or,
Resolution.
is that correct, Doug?
Yeah, we projected that we would be moving over from the 911 trust, 188,000.
For this year.
That's what
Or-
we projected for fiscal year 2021.
To the general fund or?
Correct.
or
For
what,
911
To
expenses.
pay for 911 expenses from the trust, we would move, what we projected was 188,000.
so right now we have 450 in there. We need to
Correct.
remove 188
Correct.
from those funds to get a true balance. And do we have anything coming in between now and September 30th?
There will be some ACs coming into that trust, yes.
Monthly, they come in monthly.
Any idea what the amount is? The monthly that we receive?
Yes, so every quarter, I look at what was brought in, and I have to figure out the amount that goes back to the state of quarter portion of the dollar. So it's, but the amount we're sending out is that was between the $8,000 and $9,000 every quarter. So would be somewhere around 30 to 40,000. I'm just.
Net between now and the end of September?
So that will be the end of this month, I have to submit some of that money out. And then the next quarter, the final quarter of the fiscal year, there'll be another check that will be going out for $8,000 to $9,000.
But what do we have coming in?
And that's what I'm saying, somewhere in the 32.
Each month? Or is that,
That's quarterly.
Quarterly.
okay. So if we take the 30, we subtract out the 16, that would only give us another 14 or something like that net profit for the next
I
quarter.
think, I didn't know you wanted those numbers, or I would provide them for you. But
I'm
I
trying to-
can get those pretty simple.
I'm just trying to figure out what is the best use. When we have $450,000 sitting in a fund that we can only use for specific things, we don't want to just leave money in a fund that we can't get to because we're not spending it when we have the opportunity to spend it.
We also know that what I was thinking of.
So we have, I believe it'll be,
For
not next
gener-
year, it'll be the following year. We're at end of life. So in order for us to continue to get grant money, which is where we get a lot, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to put brand new phone equipment into our center, just through the ITSCC. So we are end of life. So they're requiring us now to have one with Fayette County, Adams County, no longer have a so which will entail, which the majority of it should be not to look forward to in our
And that will go through the new CIP program.
Doug, can you pull up the budget and just see what we started with, the 911 fund, and what we've received to date? In our,
I'm not trying to be difficult. I want this moved over there. I just want to make sure that we're
Sure.
using all of the appropriate
we
funding
just don't want
that we
to-
can, so.
if we spend too much, then we're coming and begging for money.
Sure, and that's totally appropriate. I mean, you know,
But is there?
yeah, that's okay.
We had always tried to keep a year at least in there, or if something failed. or
Emergency.
down, our repeater systems are, there, how many of them are out?
We have,
At end of life?
$95,000.
And we're only.
So I haven't seen any of that come through the CIP. So you guys need all of that on,
Well, that comes
request.
through when we get the money through Juan, every year we've been signing the contract to get Homeland Security money.
So that's coming
So
through
that-
grants
We've
then.
been replacing a repeater every year with that money, but it's not catching up.
I thought we were doing 3 a year with that
No,
24,000.
there's a,
No?
it actually is more than that. It's about
25,000?
Anyway, so there's the repeater, and then there's the base station that goes with it. To one mountaintop.
Last year we did south or north and then.
I know we worked on this through LAPC, and I thought we set up a mountain trust fund for like 5,000 a year. Supposed to be going into that, and then one got us the grant to do at least 2 or maybe 3 repeaters a year, but sounds like they're more than what we thought.
Yeah, there's-
Let's go back, let's kind of go back and regroup, just so I can get it straight in my little head. We got 450,000. We take 188,000, which is what he projected, that leaves 262. And you're saying you would be willing to do the furniture, which is 81,000 out of there? That's gonna leave you 180,000 left. And you're talking about new phone system in 2 to 3 years, so we're gonna have to build that one back up pretty fast. Cover that.
That's not my money. I just made sure that I didn't overspend, but it's.
Well, and I like your idea
Over you
of
guys.
having a little reserve there in case something melts down or catches fire or blows up or.
Sometimes we've had to.
We don't
go in
have
and
to.
say, even though it's not in our budget, you have the trust and you can make your resolution to take that money out of the trust.
Right,
For that.
and that's what it's for.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back to one step farther than Elt said. So the total that you guys are looking at, like I still haven't quite got a good understanding of all of the different components of this with building requirements and the equipment costs. Where are we looking at? Like close to $300,000? Is that the
I
number?
got 273,000 and that's with 20,000 for extras.
Right, well, and then I don't know what, buildings and maintenance has done. Wall.
Oh, yeah, we haven't
So
talked
Scott
about that.
gave us,
Type of thing. I don't know what he.
I sent it to you guys last.
Yeah.
You remember what that was?
That's 25,000, that's a hard wall,
That's a hard wall?
including a bathroom. That's gonna modify it and take on bathroom wall. For a kitchen cabinet sink.
And that was all, only 25,000?
That's a wall about 37 feet down. Side of the-
still gives us the 300 then.
Yeah, it's 298,000 with that. And then if we take,
I have that in my budget
oh, do you?
too, yes.
That's good. So we're gonna
So
We're gonna
Doug, the
put a
sheriff
cross
had asked
through that
what we
one.
started with. We cut you off on that.
It's okay. It started off at the end of fiscal year 2020 at $326,077. Right now, the fund has a balance of $460,593. So since September 20th, $134,516
Is that pretty typical?
has been receipted into that fund.
Is that pretty typical, or does that change from year to year?
It changes from year to year, but I believe that that's pretty typical. We could do an analysis real quick.
No, I'm assuming that you get more houses and more phones, you get more money.
No.
No?
So a lot of our money comes from cell phones.
Oh, cell phones
If you
too.
don't change your cell phone provider when you move here, you have to make the phone call to them to change where your dollar goes.
We need to do a PR
You
campaign.
do it, and it just, it's really- so the less
Let's get
people,
Mackenzie to put it out there too.
Be interesting to know what that number is.
right, that the physical houses, have declined because people are getting it goes to cell phones. It's super frustrating when you have people. And They don't know to change their stuff. We put out on our Facebook page all the time.
Let's have Mackenzie put that out too. Will you forward that to her and put it on the Valley County one too? That'd be worthy of a deal in the Star News.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'd be worth sending out to the cities and the chambers
Yeah.
and
Everybody to
Blanket it.
forward that on.
it's infrastructure that we need dollars for.
Absolutely.
So knowing that Scott's got this 25 for the bathroom and wall already kind of covered, that gets us back to 273. We take the 81,000 or 100,000 out of 911. Would that work? That would leave us with 173,000 that we'd have to find to do the rest of it.
And that's why I'm asking, where's that money coming from? Because,
Commissioner salary.
yeah, probably.
Not gonna make it there.
I guess what I'm saying is this, and I know I'm being difficult on this, but the money's sitting there. We can use it. If you need more, we can take it back out of the general fund. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense to leave money sitting somewhere that we can't get to readily. It has to be specific projects. And then use the general fund
Well, the other thing is, so you say you'll take it out of general fund, but
or PILT.
if, because if we're gonna get it all the time. If not, and you're already at your 3% or whatever, we need to get that. We're gonna be able to, I mean, I know that the taxing, revenues are been affected this year. But it looks like next year. So do you spend all your money and then if we don't get enough in, you're gonna have to go back to the citizens again, and we're like, well, 911 money, we pay every month. Now you're wanting us to pay more? That's my take on it.
I kind of see from Sherry's perspective too, though, is like we're just talking about we got $130-ish $1,000 into it this year.
And of that, we have to send, we'll be sending it,
29, is that what you said? Somewhere in that?
between 8,000 and 9,000 a quarter. We've got this quarter,
Sure.
the end of this month, we'll be sending some of that out. And then at the end of the, so you're looking at maybe 16,000. Yeah, so that's not gonna, you can't use that for sure. That's, goes back to the grant fund to the state.
Sure. So even if we said we're getting 100,000 a year in that, we need to keep some money in there for contingency fund. And then we also are going to be rebuilding it. We need, you said up to $250,000 in the next 2 years for phones. So
Grant match, because that's coming in as grant.
Grant is 100% usually on that, as long as you're a good steward of your 911.
So we,
The SEC puts
we're
that
getting a
little
grant, we don't need
caveat on there. But I did talk to several counterparts, and they were all here. This legislation is so gray. Hold you to anything.
And I can understand where you're coming from, Sherry, about, why have all this money on hand, but it's really nice to have it if one of those consoles melts down and we got to replace it. Do we go to PILT every time to do this kind of stuff?
well, that's
I
why
like
we
the
leave
fact-
some money in that fund.
I think we need quite a bit in that fund because that stuff is pretty spendy equipment. I mean, if this
we're
is,
replacing everything though. That's what we're
well,
doing
that's the
here.
172.
We're gonna have
and that's
all
for
brand new
4
equipment, all new
stations, so
furniture.
they're $45,000 a piece.
But that's, we're replacing everything. We're gonna have all brand new equipment, all brand new furniture. I mean,
And we should have done this 5 years ago.
absolutely. I mean, phones are coming up, but what I'm hearing is that's a grant. I'm just trying to figure out over the next 3 years, realistically, we're just gonna be putting more and more money into a trust that we can't get to unless it's 911. This is our one opportunity to go and take those funds and use them for the stated purpose. And then we will keep in mind that, we'll keep money in PILT. If you guys need something and it's a one-time off and we haven't rebuilt that fund, I have no problem with saying, hey, we spent it, we're gonna go back to PILT and get some money.
Is there a guarantee that we're gonna get PILT?
Well, PILT's pretty much guaranteed. I mean, SRS is what there's a problem with. So SRS is the funding that is so much at risk. PILT has been pretty stable.
My feeling is kind of the opposite, I guess. I think we should pay the difference with PILT money now, because we have it, and go ahead and get this project started and keep your 911 funds for the emergency stuff, because that's what that fund was for. It's not just to spend it all and then cover everything out of PILT later on if we have a meltdown or equipment failure or whatever that issue is. I don't have a problem with it personally, but I'm just one vote.
I like the idea of spending the maximum amount that we feel comfortable spending out of that account. And I would say it might be a slightly higher threshold than you guys are describing, but we pay as much as we can out of the account. No, I'm not. Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys are over it, you allow,
Sure.
there used to be a 911 committee.
Sure.
But you guys are the ultimate,
Well, and I see sideboards on this versus the PILT money that's open for whatever we need it for. And I guess I'm echoing what Sherry's saying is that we have an opportunity to spend the money that has the sideboards on it. Let's use some of that or the most that we feel comfortable using, and then we can offset anything else that does come up with PILT.
So then
if
we
it
need
goes
to
above our slush
negotiate
fund level.
how much money you want to take out of 911. Is it 100,000? Is it 150? What are you guys thinking? Let's pick a number here so we can move
you
on.
guys need to do that.
It's not an action item, and we don't have to make a decision. We
I
can-
know it, but we need to be on the same page, so when we get to the action item, we know what those figures are gonna be. And I'm saying 100,000?
Just keep into consideration that radio.
Well, so here's the other question
Radio
I,
towers are coming.
how,
We can't, and that might be where we need to use the PILT.
Right.
well, and that's what I'm wondering is, so could we do a repeater a year out of PILT, or can we use a repeater a year? Repeaters are very key.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah, we'll get off track for just 1 second here.
Right now, because of all these repeaters and these radio systems we have going, we have a committee that we're looking into a trunk system for the whole county, which would knock it down to about 3 to 4 repeaters throughout the whole county, and we get better coverage with those and everything else, and we're looking at the feasibility of doing that and eliminating however many towers we have to take care of, so that's also being looked at.
who are you working with on that? So we have a full broadband committee. Are you guys familiar with that? And a whole fiber committee that's already working. So we don't want to do anything separate than what is already being worked on, because
This wouldn't be our system. The system built by the
So all the EMS agencies, and then would that,
Public Works,
Public
Road
Works,
Department,
road department, all
McCall
of them.
City, everybody, and then if there's a big emergency, everybody can talk to everybody. It would eliminate, gosh, a lot of towers.
will you touch base with Jeremy? Jeremy's on the broadband committee as well as Mary Rosen. I mean, there is a fiber company bringing fiber into Donley right now. We just need to connect McCall, and there'll be a full fiber hookup, which I'm assuming would be something that would be important to this group also.
So Dave, how does that work? Like in the backcountry, those repeaters back there just go away?
They did a study and our coverage in the backcountry would be phenomenal, the way they said they only need one backcountry tower if they do it this way. They already did, they sent it out to, whoever they do those radio studies and sent us the coverage, and actually, it had one concern back in Yellow Pine that we had coverage, and it's all this, but I guess what the radio does, it hits off of whatever the strongest. They're saying that the power up there was some upgrades.
We'd like to,
But we were just doing baby steps.
Yeah, we're just getting the feasibility of it.
I've heard two things today, though. One, we're replacing towers every year. We just did Brundage, we're doing the south.
We
Okay.
have,
So we're
So we had
replacing.
13.
the problem is, what?
I thought we had 13. LAPC, we started out with
Yeah,
13.
We do have 13, you're correct. But we also have, within those 13, you want to add the additional ones that McCall has, Donley has. So there's all these little tiny things that we're trying to minimize it and give everybody better coverage and take away the responsibility for the county to own all and replace all this equipment is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whereas we could come and build their own system.
Good call.
Thought.
They just did something for Tamarack.
They're doing an agency.
Well, let's get back to
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Let's get back to this, or we're gonna run out of time sitting here. So
Sorry.
what are you guys' feeling on how much do you want to take out of the 911 trust to pay for this?
We've got 460 right now. We are going to send 9,000, 18,000.
188,000.
Let's go just high to be 18.
188, what was that for? I can't remember.
That was to pay taxes, or pay the expenses. That's
Okay,
it.
so basically transferring 200,000 out of that. I'll just use round numbers, 200 out of it at the end of the year to meet 911, which gives us 242. We know that we've been getting 150 a year. So I mean, if we spent 150,
That was just 1 year though.
so can you give me anything the last 3 years? I mean, is there, if that's normal, that's what I heard was that was normal? I mean, that still leaves 100,000 in there. If you take 150 out. I guess I'm looking at like, it's all new equipment. I mean, the loss of equipment. So now we're looking at what's the next thing that has to be replaced.
Well, she's talking
And if
about
phones
the
are-
phones and,
That's all grant money. So the radios, LSPC, whatever you're on, you're dealing with some tower money. Whereas, I guess we need a holistic picture of what can, what we're actually doing and who's funding some of these things.
Right. I
'Cause
think
if-
I've got in my budget sheet on the monies that we send into the state for the grant. The first 2 quarters, so the first half of the budget year was 17,706. So that we've sent, so that's probably going to be about the same
replicated,
as what we'll
okay.
send between the end of this month.
And then what I'm hearing is there's multiple funding sources for some of these towers, because if it's LSPC is putting some money aside for it, I mean, where is all of the funding mechanism? The only thing I'm trying to get to at the end of the day is, let's don't leave money in 911 that we can't get to in any other way. So I'm totally trusting you guys in that information. But I think it's a low number to just take the furniture out of there. I think there has to be a little bit more than that. So what about
Yeah, and
150?
We're allowed to take, I mean, like, it's great for the radios, which we definitely need. I'm thinking that a portion of that.
Ryan Oakey said unequivocally, yes, you can use it. Oh, that was his feedback to us.
but I think it's important that we realize that this is the sheriff's department. This is your thing. We're not trying to micromanage you. What I want to know is, what is the final number you guys are comfortable with out of 911? You know you got phones coming down the road, which is a grant, I understand that, but we've got the Mountain Trust set up for repeaters and one's grant.
It's like my
Bottom
kids
line,
every week.
I mean, it really is.
So this was given to the sheriff to manage, but you guys are the ones who make the final decision on how it's spent, basically through the budgeting system and other,
You guys have concerns about leaving $100,000 in that account for this year, knowing that there's going to be
having
another,
a balance of that.
yeah.
It's just
Uncomfortable.
scary. It's
Yeah,
just-
I'm
because we've
comfortable with
never
that.
really given- she's
I'm
never really given that.
comfortable with that. We had been spending yearly more than what was coming in. Because at the end, there were other things came out, at the end of the budget that even though we talked about using a portion of IT's wage and a portion of supervisor, it's just IT now. We're just grabbing a number, 25%, 33%. We don't know. I think it's much smaller than that, but that's what was agreed upon. And if the county took on more of IT's budget expense, because I don't think that 25% of IT is actually
Going to Sheriff's
going
Department.
to 911.
Yep.
That would help to keep more funding in there and
But how about we meet in the middle and say 150,000?
I'm fine with 150. I think
Fine
that's
with
fine.
150? Dave?
Yeah, I mean, that's the number. Whatever it is, I just want them to feel comfortable and I want us to utilize as much as we can on the
Then if we
project.
do,
that's-
Exactly.
that's gonna leave
Available
about
for-
125,000 that will have to come up out of PILT to pay for the rest of it. I think that's a pretty fair deal. Might not be that much. When will you know if it's okay to use 911? Do you have to ask somebody down below?
No, we, every time we get a new, council, we ask them.
Oh, okay,
Would you
so-
read this, what's your interpretation? Because we don't want to find out later that the current legal counsel is saying, oh, no, I don't know, I don't believe that. We have done that, and over the years since I've been sheriff, some things have not been paid. We used to pay all of the islets. It was like, no. Things in this budget that does not come out of 911. Used to be wages years back, and they fixed that in legislation that no. Wiser, that's like dispatching. So if that's our current legal counsel interpretation.
Perfect.
Okay, so then let's go back and we'll reschedule this, re-agenda this down the road here in a week or two as an action item, and we can make this vote and get it coming.
We just need to get it going. We need to get moved over there.
Right.
And before you make your move on this, I just wanted to, ask exactly what other information you wanted us to provide you with. You said that you wanted some more information.
I think we've gotten to
On a
the,
spreadsheet versus just.
I think Elle just added it all up. It was just, what is that bottom figure? Because it was just trying to figure out exactly what was all included and inclusive, so.
And I think it's great you guys are taking this on and getting it done, because we should have done it a long time ago.
Been talking about it for a long time.
That's added into your quote. I don't know what that would be.
And I'd like to ask Buildings and Grounds, so that is that 25 grand you have in your budget for doing, and there's anything else that you can think of that we need to pick up?
That's one that. About accordion type walls.
Okay.
Hard wall. Can be easily removed and expanded right over the carpet. Frank walls insulated. Go it out farther, or we can take walls coming across and swing it out. And
My feeling is you guys need to get together and really get down into the weeds on this and get it.
So we'll just have to
To
have
the
a
last
budget
inch.
guy come in because of the
Yep.
furniture and the radios. But I can get all that. I know exactly who to contact.
Would you guys have enough time to get this so we can do this next week?
Let me make some phone calls today.
Okay, well then we'll leave it up to you guys to get with Doug to agenda it as an action item. And we'll get moving on this.
We're
This will be-
excited for you guys.
I am too.
It's gonna be a great
Yeah.
space, yes. And
Windows.
then, Scott, we probably need to,
I know, I've seen your windows.
Well, and they've got an extra 20 kind of thrown in here for some of that too, Scott. So I think between the two of us, you guys, you can come down with a pretty tight budget costs, and then we'll move on it and start ordering parts. Okay?
You're just gonna have to plan on how to fix that when they leave up there, so to make that a better spot for somebody else.
Work it out.
Okay, while we're here, our next agenda item is an action item, and it's to discuss the patrol vehicles and the replacement spreadsheet. So, Sheriff,
Can we have just,
need a break?
I do,
5
thank
minutes.
you.
Okay,
Hey, Dave,
Please,
can I
me too.
take
stand by?
5 minutes
Can I
and
just
then we'll
ask
come
you a
back.
question? What do you think the timeframe for those repeaters would be? The new system?
Um,
Are we talking 5 years, 3 years?
yeah, I was,
What our share
we
might
were shooting for 3, you know, somewhere. The sooner we do it, the more of those repeaters we can cut out, you know.
Well, what about the ones we've already improved, though? Will those go away? Because we fixed 4 or 5.
Well, they're gonna keep rundage.
There are two, technically two. 'cause
Can we
you have
do
two components of
Packard
each.
John, too, isn't that a new one?
I'm trying to think of the backcountry one, it might have been Landmark or something that covers
have-
that whole backcountry area.
Thunder Mountain.
Thunderbolt. maybe.
Thundermount, Thunderbolt.
Or not Thunder Mountain.
Good one for every day.
Thunderbolt.
Yes,
And the other
Yes.
one is down over out of Deadwood, we share with,
White Hawk.
White Hawk,
We
we
have
share
White
with
Hawk.
the Forest Service.
yeah.
And I
We
was,
have Elk Summit and Meadow Creek, which are for fishing game that we share with Fishing Game.
so they've got to come on board, too, with
There's
these.
so many different repeaters, it's just
So
super,
this might be a huge expense, but it would be spread out like between 5 agencies
it may
or
not
something.
even be our expense. Could be, but initial startup.
All the fire departments, all
Yeah.
the PD, all the public works, all the city stuff,
Yeah.
Right on Public Works.
everybody.
So would that be a partnership with Forest Service too, or would they just continue to maintain their own system?
They would have to be on board because it's on forest ground.
What would it take to get the feds on board on that, you know?
You know, for something like that, like a
Same
CDD
size,
is a
right?
pretty easy way for them to
Tower.
go.
Correct, but you still,
Doesn't
any
necessarily need to go
changes,
through, like,
you
full-blown
still
NEPA.
have to get some
You're talking about-
permissions.
Adding a tower where there's already a tower, maybe putting a tower in and then taking one out, so.
Yeah,
They need to know when there's changes.
I think there's only a small, where it was back there that, Linvolt wouldn't cover on there. They're gonna rework it to make sure they didn't do something coverage. It pretty much hit everything.
If you could go.
Yeah.
Buy a satellite up there in outer space.
Do you hear anything?
Oh, you're chirping.
I heard-
Is that coming out of your budget?
I'm kind of bummed about the current law.
I'll buy it for you.
Yep, I got it for you. No. It's just, I hope that's why we have.
You guys have the same stuff as I got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got my loaner.
Yep.
I got sheet and all that.
Yep, just in case you guys don't have. Give Doug one.
I can pull it up.
Oh, okay, this is different.
Oh, you want more?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. Hello. Good.
I charge the county for water because everybody's starting to,
You know, I was going to bring a
Decide
case in
that-
today,
you know,
much for this wedding, and I didn't even think about it.
like planning and zoning meets in here and some other people meet in here. They're just used to grabbing water now, and that's a good thing. Patty, I'm sorry for your loss last week. I'm sure you had a long week.
Yeah. I
Bet
saw
it
some
was.
family, we were gonna go on a hike today and I thought, like, and then.
Gotta be in there
No, it's
today.
very nice.
Good.
Over 70 family members.
Oh, good. I lost a cousin week before last, 65, and I mean, he was in the best shape of his life, running trails, just retired from
Those two
teaching.
agreements.
Hey, Jeff, did you send us that, didn't you, that
Side of the
road
trail,
maintenance?
massive
It
heart
was-
attack, 65.
Who's that?
Say what?
The deal on the trucks, the years and all that, I saw that somewhere, no, I can't.
I just set one on your desk there too,
Good.
just in case you guys didn't have it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next agenda item. This is an action item. Pre-ordering patrol vehicles and review of vehicle replacement spreadsheet. Jeff provided that for us. It looks like you've got 4 that have got pretty close to 150,000 miles or more. Anyway, go ahead. If there's anything you want to add, Dave?
So we put 4 in the budget. That was before we found out through Cascade Auto that if we don't order them now, if we wait till October 1, we're 18 months out.
That was actually through the Dodge rep, police rep, Dodge.
Got it. So it wasn't the local.
Well, it wasn't through Kathy. Oh, that was that email you sent me.
Yeah,
And
that was through Dodge USA themselves and their rep for this western region. They're gonna retool a factory next year. If they don't get in now, we put them in at our normal time after October. That don't expect to see them before October of next year.
Okay.
Making Jeeps.
When are we gonna get the 2 we ordered last year?
One is supposedly on a train right now, and the other one, I just got a hold of the people out there that build them, and it's still there, and I haven't got an answer why it's still there. But one is on its way.
So
basically
that's
what-
better information.
What we're
So,
finding out through Dodge is they make the vehicle, don't put any interior in them, ship them to Canada, to GFX, upfit them, then they go back across the river to the United States to Dodge, and then they put all the interior stuff in.
Part of that NAFTA agreement stuff.
Huh?
It's part of NAFTA, believe it or not.
No, well, no, this is, why put the interior all in, the headliner, the seats, the floor, when GFX has to rip all that stuff out, put all their wiring in for the lights and everything, when they can get it bare bones, get all their wiring in, then it goes back to Dodge across the river, and then they put all their interior stuff in.
And that's why it's cheaper to do it that, because if we get them from Dodge, we send them down to Boise, they rip everything out of there down to bare bones. So
That's probably eight hours each
so
way,
those 2
probably.
vehicles are which vehicles are replacement here?
the ones in
getting those
gray,
two?
I guess the light brown colors are the ones that are coming in.
Light brown are the 4 that are,
Browski and Hanson are the ones that are coming in.
Okay, so they're
Oh,
getting the
yes.
2. Okay.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah,
are our
that's a
2
fiscal year.
highest mileage ones.
We average 20,000 a year.
Well, there's McPherson with
20,000.
165 too.
I think that's the one that had the oil pan just rust out of it.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
so-
which one?
McPherson's.
That's only 16,000.
Yeah, McPherson's got,
He's got a new one.
oh, he's got a new one.
Yeah.
Did you
That's
not?
the one we just left.
So the next 3, Surgeon has one, Surgeon, I don't know how to say that, but the spares, you've got 3 spares.
Well, commissioners, I think what would help me, and not create a big, mess every year is, I need a solid number on when you guys want. It's a moving target right now. I try to balance them as going to spares because they won't get as many miles put on them. And throwing the ones that have lower miles, into the mix so they do get miles on them. And if I can just have a target number of, it's gonna be, 120, and so at 100, we order.
And I think that's reasonable because what I want to do is I want to make sure Jeff can take some of these used vehicles from you guys and use them in the road department. Otherwise, we're buying new vehicles for the road department all the time too.
And I
I
think
think
it's up
that's
to
a-
Jeff. Jeff is managing our motor pool. I mean, I'm not managing the motor pool.
Good.
Jeff needs to tell us, this is when we have vehicles at risk. But what I want is how many oil changes, I mean, how much money have we put into these vehicles so that now we're recognizing we have a problem vehicle, we need to replace it. And that's what we're working on right now with the other software that we're putting in place. So it's going to help us a lot, guys, a year from now, knowing exactly what that needs to look like. I don't have any idea if 100,000 miles is appropriate or 150,000 miles is appropriate.
So on
until we know.
average, Dave did some checking with neighboring sheriff's offices.
Sheriff's offices and states.
Nobody's running their vehicles past 120. Nobody. And that was kind of our goal. But 2 years ago, we got kind of messed up. And then last year, we got messed up because of COVID. And that's why the number's kind of high this year, is because we've fallen behind the curve. But
So-
120, I mean, I wrote on there, I don't know if I wrote it on this one or not. 100,000 miles or 5 years, whichever comes first. Because if they're averaging 20,000, 25,000 a year on average, when they hit that 100,000 mile mark, by the time I get one ordered in that following budget year, it's gonna have 120 plus on it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, that makes great sense. So if you look at the 4 that you were talking about last time, was the 3 in the bottom blue, and then the one that's Surgeon 143,000, that's why you picked 4.
Yes, those are the next 4 highest mileage ones.
So what
But-
about the one at the jail that's only got 5,000 miles on it? Can we swap some vehicles that
That's-
have low mileage for those that have higher mileage?
Different bill.
They're transporting several inmates, so it's not as well.
What vehicle are you
So the
talking about?
2018 Durango?
Well, yeah, that's just both of them are just set up for transported cost. If you wanted to rotate that in, it would cost another 8,000 to build.
That's got that smaller V6 in it.
Okay. So ordering, I heard 7 the other day. That's to me, we can't do that. We need to get on a 2-a-year rotation or 3-a-year rotation, whatever that is, so we have a set amount in the budget every year. I understand we need to get caught up, but I think if we did 3 right now, we could look in after the budget is done, after we, move through the CIP and put more in there and then see if we have funding to do it.
So the 2 that we ordered they've already been paid for out of last.
No, they haven't even been paid for
But
it.
the money's already been allocated
It's 21,
for
yes,
those.
it's obligated.
Yeah.
Does that include the 11 grand to uplift the kids and all
It's
that?
still sitting, it's budgeted.
All in
already,
there?
it's still
Okay.
sitting away.
So that part's in sheriff's budget, the vehicle part.
Is in motor pool.
Do we have an updated cost for those vehicles for this year?
No, it came in a tad bit under 30 last year, added 3%. We don't know what COVID did to anything.
I was gonna say, I'm concerned that maybe those costs are a little higher.
I'm trying to get 2 pickups, one for Larry and, that's the other one. Oh, the other one's for us, and I can't even get prices yet for another 30 days for the government concession.
Rep said to be safe on these next ones.
Okay.
So it's the worst will be is another $900, whatever it is. And I think that's,
So if we ordered 3 right now, that gets us not caught up, but that gets us ahead of the curve.
You really can't. Or you have to go through the bid process first.
Right.
So that's what pushes it out too.
Which we want to have done by, would you say October?
But if you commissioners decide to move forward on this, there's gonna be a window that they have these windows that you can order it. There's a window coming up, so I think if you wanna move forward on this, put the bids out ASAP, get them all there, and then if the window opens between now and October, then we have permission to order however many. Don't miss that order window. That'll be the last window. We'll get those, he said second quarter of next year if we hit this window coming up, but after that, you're not gonna see fourth quarter or maybe the first year.
and my feeling is I
That's the only reason we're trying.
don't want to pick 3 or 4 today. I want to see what the bids are
Yeah,
before we make that decision personally.
yeah.
So actually what you're looking for is a motion then to authorize you guys to go ahead and go out for bid.
Yes.
We're not going to award any bids. We're not buying any trucks. Just go for the bid and we'll see what they come in at. And I'm assuming your Mountain Home will be involved and maybe some of the other dealerships and Kathy and
I'll bring in the state bids like I have been, and then we'll get one from Kathy and
And then we can determine if we want 3, 4, or 5, who knows, we'll see. So I'll make the motion then that we authorize the motor pool to go out for bid for patrol vehicles. And then, did you say you needed, it's a different bid for the road department, right there, a different truck?
Yeah, we're after 1 tons.
So I'm gonna include that.
I don't need, I'm not asking for,
You're not asking for
I'm
that
not
now?
asking for pre-delivery on those.
Okay, so you want to just stick with patrol vehicles?
Just patrol vehicles
Okay.
for right
So I'll
now.
make then refer my motion to authorize you guys to go ahead and go out for a bid for patrol vehicles.
Doing 3 or 4?
We'll see what the bid is.
Well, it might make a difference. 3 might be $30,000 apiece and 4 might be $27,000 apiece.
My vote is for,
You just want to do 4? Or
because we have a
We can bid 'em,
policy.
we don't,
You have a policy of 100,000, we're gonna order them, we're violating that policy if we're not gonna go for 4.
I mean, if we went for 4, we can always back it off to 3
Right,
when we open them. But if we bid 3, it's pretty hard to add another one onto it. We don't have to accept all 4. We can just pick 3.
but you have to accept all 4 if they've given you a reduced bid.
but if they knock 3 grand
So-
off a rig, it's worth it.
Yeah, might only be $500 off. I don't, might not even matter.
Is this in the CIP? Did you
Yes.
put something in for our meeting on Wednesday? Okay.
Yep.
I will second that, based upon a review of the CIP committee.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Dave?
Nothing for me.
Hey, Dave?
Just probably for myself and Jeff, and I can start planning out along with Jeff, is are we now gonna let those vehicles we're safe at 100,000 and looking at a 120 replacement
If
on it?
that's Jeff's policy in motor pool, I think that's a very good policy.
5-year.
And
It
Jeff, do you
doesn't-
have that in policy, or is that in your head?
Yeah, it's just,
Could you put that in a policy somewhere for approval, so we have it moving forward?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Everybody good? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
The only other thing we're working on, just for your guys' knowledge, there's a software program, and Jeff's gonna start monitoring each one of the vehicles to look for how much maintenance we're doing on them, what the costs are for each one of those vehicles. So you may have one that at 75,000, he's already had to work on 3 times, and that might drive the
lemon.
conversation versus one that, it's been great. There's been nothing wrong with it, he's gonna have to manage that. Jeff's the management of that motor pool. So he's gonna have to inform us.
Would you guys be looking for the Durango or the SUV chassis versus the truck chassis for the newer vehicles? Like that?
so just on the safety and dependability side, you start pushing 120,000 on a patrol vehicle, I think you're putting that deputy at risk. Personally, I'm sure these two think the same thing, but it's, I mean, a brand-new vehicle can fall apart just as easily as one with 200,000 miles on it, but
SUVs are not only less than the pickups, they're less to outfit too. We don't have to buy the truck box anymore. We don't have to buy, the stuff for the
and I found out they can.
And do you have to get,
flip the,
I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
well, they can flip the hatch back open when it's nasty outside, and they bought these little pop-up tent things that fit right over that, so they can work
Perfect.
right there out of the back of the vehicle with it running, get some heat. For a pickup, you're out.
Do you have to have white? I know white's always the cheapest, but is there a policy for all white?
Well, we like for them all to look the same, so we just went.
Because every time I see the brown Ford go by, oh, that was a sheriff's deputy.
Well,
Slow down.
no.
He sees brake lights, doesn't he?
Well, and
You're just
we're
wanting
putting
to
bigger
look
logos on them too.
No, I
aren't we?
like the different colors. but-
Sheriff's Department, they have logos all the way down the side, and I'm sure they'll get
Yeah.
them to fit these Durangos.
Yeah, we already have them.
Perfect.
One of our reserve deputies does that for an officer.
Nice. Perfect.
Okay, I think we're done.
Okay, we'll get her going.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is in about 5 minutes, so Mary, come on up. Get it all done?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was
Thanks.
confused. I was on the
be
agenda.
sorry. You're
last
doing a
week,
great job.
and it
She's
changed
telling me how
on.
scared she is of
Friday.
all SUVs now. She's like, everybody's driving a white SUV that looks like.
So those two are for Stephanie.
Okay,
and
these
they
are
were
Stephanie.
approved
She's got a
last
keep telling her to
week,
slow
but
down.
not signed.
She will after she gets a couple tickets and has
She got one. And I thought that was gonna be enough, but then she got a warning. And I'm like, come on.
wait until it hits your.
That's what I told her. I was like, every single one of these is a ding on your insurance. And luckily, I'm not paying her insurance on that one. It's her mom. Younger kid is like conservative grandma driver. That's the one I'm paying the insurance for. I'm like,
Thank you.
I ride with her. I'm like, just relax.
Yeah, I had two boys. Much worse.
It's hot in here, man. We need some air conditioning.
In the window.
Well, we can't even plug the fan in because it's connected to the camera right now.
Don't think Doug signs this one.
But I had it. I did this.
Were you already reimbursed?
No, it's coming next week. You want the original on that?
Okay, thank you.
That's just one spot on this. Oops.
I think so. I think
Mitch looked at it.
Yeah,
I
look
wonder
after
if-
these guys sign it.
missing.
These guys gotta sign it
Oh,
too.
that's right.
What am I signing here?
So that's
Oh,
that
this is a CE.
environmental
Okay, yeah.
Review.
Yes. At least it moves it around a bit. You decide.
Guys don't have AC in here?
Yeah, they do. So Mitch came in and looked at it, so I don't know what's going on.
Today is what, 21st? 6/21.
Doug's still gotta sign that one.
Oh,
So Dave, I don't know if it helps you guys at all. So there is a
County's address,
broadband
box
grant.
1350.
Just opened the state portal.
50.
There's $35 million sitting there. And that's why if check with Jeremy, because I mean, if we can write anything that's broadband or fiber into whatever you guys need for your project, and Mary's on
They got 'em
that
all.
group also, she can write a grant to try and help
Sign that
fund
one.
some of this stuff
Acceptance for the
through
funding.
the state dollars.
You did, thank you.
And then we can use broadband for the ARPA funds that
you.
we've
Good
been
job.
talking about, the 2.2 million, the ARPA, ARPA. So there's 2.2 million coming to Valley County for the ARPA funds. 1.1 this year, 1.1 next year. So let's try and coordinate any of our needs that would be addressed by this. Mary, they're working on a project for radio towers. And so, you know, the the funds, the broadband task force, we should look at that also. Make sure that we can help fund that if need be.
That grant came open, you know, the broadband.
I just saw it, I just saw that came open this
We
morning,
have
so.
the funds extended by.
But it might be something that we could get some, you know, some of the radio towers for broadband expansion might be a win-win for all of us.
But it sounds like these guys want to contract out with a company, White Cloud, and they would build all that stuff
But we can contract with them with some of those
to
ARPA
help
funds.
building, yeah.
Yeah. So we actually can help provide for that if it suits our needs too. So we can give it to a vendor.
Okay, we're going to move on down. Our next agenda item is action item. This is a request for extension of dispatcher pay time off Bank maximum. So Pat, you're up.
Somebody taller, always. Oh, it's Jeff, that's why.
Can you move the mic down? I can't see you. Lift it up.
Lift it up so you can see over it.
Stand on your tippy toes. It's
Yeah.
always a problem.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Shortest one. As you're aware, we're 3 people down in the dispatch center.
Oh, I didn't know that we were that much.
Yeah, we're that much. We have 1 person hired who'll be starting next week. But we're struggling to find people. And part of that, if you read in the paper last week on the daycare, that's only adding to our issues, obviously. But aside from that, we have people that are pushing right up against their maximum right now, and some are starting to lose PTO. They can't take time off because there's only 5 and there needs to be 8. So what we are asking for is the opportunity to maybe bump that max up for a period of time.
It's a 40? What's the max?
Now, the 40 has to do with comp time. It depends on how long that they've been here. So some of these people have been here less than 5 years, and it's 196.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking over Patty's shoulder. Some of them have been here a very long time, and so the maximum is like 276. So we have 2 at 276 and 3 at 196 is what the maximum is. If you look at our newest employee, their paid time off balance right now is at 159.64, and 196 is the max. So you give them 3 months, they'll be over that. And then we have, like our long-term, this person is, their max, they've already maxed out and are going to lose.
What do you think would be a reasonable amount of time to extend that?
I am going to defer a little bit to the captain and the sheriff, mainly because I don't know how long it's going to take us to bring people in.
Sure.
I can see how many people are clicking on the ad and people are looking at it. So I don't know whether it's a salary issue. I don't know whether it's trying to find a place to live. We're very honest in the job posting, which we need to be, because you just don't want a warm body in there, right?
Do you have any way to look at those clicks and see if it's from in area or out of area, like as far as the IP that they're coming from?
I can try. I haven't really looked at them. I might be able to figure out if there's a report that would show that. So there are all kinds of reasons, but usually people will click on it. They'll look at the job description and think, I don't want to do that, and go on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the majority, I would assume, and I know assuming is scary, but I'm thinking that's probably the main reason. They look at the job and they're thinking that's not really what I want, as they review the job description and stuff. It may be that the 24-hour, opportunity is not what everybody wants either. Because some
Pat,
people
can you
don't
remind me
like-
what's the base salary for new dispatch?
Starts at $17.52. And it will go up if you all approve the new pay ranges, just because we need to raise it anyway, but based on what other agencies are doing.
Can you raise it now with our approval and not wait until October, so that maybe that would help?
We can do
short
that.
term?
Yes, I can propose that next week.
would-
We can't do it today because we don't have an actual number.
So
But I can
that's-
propose that next week.
That's about 48,000 a year.
I mean, it's not horrible, but it's a pretty rough position.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of responsibility.
Yes, there is.
So that's,
And
There
and
is.
pretty rugged hours.
Yeah.
And they're now considered law enforcement and have to go through the academy. And there's a lot of, like you say, a lot of responsibility. We know that there's, in the county, service job entry is now up to $20, just so they can get people. $20 an hour. Our dispatchers are responsible for,
Yeah.
we probably need to look at that
Right.
too and get that done. But yeah, Pat, if you'd bring that back next week, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I'll do that too, as well.
I absolutely support everyone that works over there, 100%. And, if we need to protect their PTO, I'm more than happy with doing that
Yeah,
till we can
now-
get back to.
So we're getting ready to do this month's budget, or sorry,
Payroll.
Payroll. Their payroll, and so some of them have been able to take some time off, so this will actually change, reflected that, but not much. And there's one that the max that they can have is 276. They're at 276. Last month they lost. They lost because they were at the max.
They're already maxed out.
Yeah, so they
Couldn't accrue
didn't, they
anymore.
didn't earn
Right.
anything more. So really, it's like, we want you to work, 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 and we're gonna take. So.
So what do you recommend?
Well, I'm wondering if
300,
that could be
325
if that
hours?
could be restored to them and then set some other limit, and we're really, I
Oh,
mean, this is a
okay.
busy time of the year, and
It is for everybody. I don't know how many of, within the county. I mean, there's other departments that are losing some
So-
too. I don't know how we get,
Yeah, 'cause
how
we-
we make this right
especially
with
our
other
longevity
employees.
people, I mean,
Right.
they've
Yeah.
been very loyal.
So the difference that I see between dispatch and some of the other departments is that they haven't been shorthanded and they've had an opportunity to take that time off prior to this and use it. But dispatch has been shorthanded for a year. So it hasn't been, for them, it hasn't been just, summer hit and I should have taken time off and I didn't.
Okay.
That's, to me, that's a different scenario because people should be responsible for their own paid time off. And if they're not, if they have an opportunity and they can take it and they're not doing it, that's on them. But in this circumstance, to me, this is a little different because, if we have to have somebody manning the dispatch center. So it does make it harder for them to take time off. So that's the only reason I agreed to present this.
And I think, Pat, we need to not only restore what these folks lost last month, but we need to take a serious look at that base salary.
Oh, yeah.
Just for dispatch.
Yeah. I agree with that. So we have set the dispatch center up so it is very simple. So it's this, not the same salary, but the same as patrol and detention, in that there is a learning wage. And so that wage is
Okay.
lower, and once they're certified, then they are bumped up. So I'm a little reluctant because that means if we do that, then we'll have to look at the whole package. But yeah, so let me do an analysis. Let me come back to you next week. We'll take a look at it. It will mess up everybody else if we're not careful. That's already in dispatch, which is what we don't want to do.
Right.
So let me take a look at that and see. But if we can bring them in, at least at the minute, that'll mess it up too. Let me look at it. I have to analyze it. I don't want to just,
So you don't want a motion in all the day, or do you want a motion?
not
to go
on,
ahead and
I want to just on the time off balances.
Just on restoring what they lost.
Restoring and maybe bumping up their max for a short period of time.
Okay.
So I don't know what's reasonable
I'll
another.
make a motion then that we restore the PTO policy to the existing dispatch department and raise the PTO time to 325 hours.
Will that work? That's max. That's huge.
We'll have to.
That work? Oop. Be honest, be just, and fear not
Yeah.
here.
Because that
And
is
if we
about
reach
what's going
that
to work for you.
325 down the road, we still haven't got help, you guys come back and.
Yeah, and I can say that, in the policy prior to your current policy, we have come before and when we've been shorthanded. And that was in policy that we could come to you to extend.
And we did raise that base salary, I think, once or twice in the past too, if I remember right. Because I think at one time it was like $14.
Oh, yeah, which is unreasonable.
And we raised that up.
Yeah. And,
you're right.
part of the process with the whole budget and our salaries, which we'll be talking about a little bit later today, part of that process is to raise them up to where they should be. So, we can look at moving that minimum up to now. We just have to be careful of the other employees, knowing that in October, if you approve the salaries, it will go up. But there's a lot of if with that. So we have to be
Well-
very, very careful
Yeah.
with what we're doing, because it may be that I come back and say, well, if we do this,
We're gonna have
then
to
we
pump
have
some
to do
others.
this,
Right.
and this is how much it's going to cost
And
us.
we'll handle that one next week when you come back with us on that.
Yeah.
And Dave, was that a second?
It was a second.
It's been moved and second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just for further discussion, is there going to be a time frame that this is going to be allowed for? Is it for 6 months for the extension of?
Well, I would assume until we get dispatch full again.
I think we should extend it for 6 months and see where we are.
I agree. I don't want to extend it for very long. Forever.
Yeah.
Because we
So I'll
ran
amend-
into that
I'll amend-
before.
I'll amend my motion for 6 months, Doug. That work for you, Dave?
Still works for me.
Okay.
Well, the other option, now I'm going to throw it out because
Come on,
I
we've already-
forgot it. I know, we're done. But the other option before you vote is that I don't know whether they have it in the budget, but we could pay out a certain amount to give them room to move up. So we could, just say, okay, we're going to pay out 40 hours of their PTO to give them time to
Well, I'm
incorporate
glad you
that.
brought that, because I was going to ask you to provide that next week as well,
Okay.
if we could pay off some of that.
I'd like to know how many other departments have that situation, if there's anybody else in that situation.
Not
So
that
when
I
you're
know.
saying, so when you think about that though, Pat, I mean, a lot of the other departments are asking for extra employees this year because they're so far behind. They can't keep up either. So it's not like they're lacking somebody right now, a full-time equivalent right now, but they also can't take time off because they're so busy. And so that's two ways of thinking of that. You guys are actually lacking FTE. The other departments are lacking the ability to take it because of being, struggling for, get everything done. So there is two ways to look at that.
Okay, we got a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, and we'll see you next week, Pat.
All right.
We definitely don't want to burn out your existing employees. I mean, that just
No.
doesn't do anything for anybody.
No, it
so
doesn't. And there's that
that's-
part
oh,
too.
yeah.
Even those that are very busy,
Yeah.
trying to take time off is important. Doug, is it possible to get that on the agenda next week?
Please send me an email.
All right.
And we'll
All
take
right.
a look at what the existing agenda is.
All right, perfect.
But we will fit it in somewhere.
We have to.
Okay.
Start at 8:30, just let us know.
Need to go to 2 days a week, let us know. Okay?
Does the 911 stuff have to be on the agenda again too?
Yeah, as an action item.
As an action item.
As an action item with the budget, where we're gonna take the funds from, who's, all that, so everybody's very clear on it. Get that on the agenda too, as soon as you can. All right, thanks you guys.
Thank you.
Stay nice and cool out there today.
Oh, I feel the AC on. We need to close windows.
Why wasn't it on?
I think it just kicked in.
Okay, we're gonna move on down to our agenda. Our next item is a workshop to discuss short-term rentals. This is not an action item. Cinda, are you leading this show?
It's going to be to discuss housing. So we're not exactly certain who put this on there, so that's why we amended it this morning, so we could have a full discussion on housing. First of all, Scott, on the new acquisition, he has the bid for that, and I think, Doug, did that get on for approval? I don't think that got on for approval. He needs to go ahead and get started on that. It's about $18,000 to complete that home so that we can start renting that out.
We didn't approve that last week? Or the week
Yeah.
before? No?
He sent us the bids. I
Yeah, I
thought this
remember
We
the
got
bids.
information last week about it.
I don't have my old agenda. I should have had it.
So that needs to be added onto that. So that will be one thing of housing. So the other thing that I've been working on is the old recycling center in McCall. So we did a sewer model, and it came back that on it's 3/4 of an acre is what I think it is. I have an email into Chip Bowers, our surveyor. He needs to actually put boundaries around that thing, so I know exactly what we're dealing with as far as size. So if he puts the road easement on this piece, it actually, I think, will allow us more units on that side. So I'll reach out to Chip and make sure that that he puts that road easement on this piece and not the police department's piece. And then on that sewer modeling, it came back that there's $650,000 worth of sewer improvements from that we need to either participate in or developers need to participate in. And Dale Kaza told me that he has one active developer with 26 units. There is a developer that is right behind the school that is going through sewer modeling right now. He's going to have 600 units. And
600 units
600 units.
yeah, 600
behind the
lots.
school.
Behind, yep. It's to the east of the Pale Lakes Middle School and the elementary.
So does that connect into the Woodlands?
It does. The Woodlands and Fox Ridge. So he's working on his sewer modeling right now. And so my statement to Dale was, let us know how we can participate. We certainly cannot afford to increase this kind of, sewer capacity. But Dale feels like there will be a collective behind being able to increase that sewer capacity. If we get that sewer capacity increased, technically, we could do 15 to 20 units on there. the way the sewer district is doing it right now is once they know that that sewer capacity will be increased, then we do a request to them to actually ask how many units we can do. Because that is community commercial. The city of McCall's ordinance states 40 units per acre on community commercial. So we've got somewhere again in the 3/4 acre, but Dale said, I don't know that you would get full capacity there, even with the sewer upgrade. So I'm saying somewhere between, 12 to 20 units on that.
Be huge.
I am going to be meeting with the Springs
Catherine?
on Thursday. Catherine's going to come out. We're going to do lunch.
Great.
And I'm going to talk to her about this site because this site abuts another half acre that they own on that side, same side of the street as we are.
South of us.
So, yeah. So it might be that, that they would want to take this on and do some kind of coordinated project to get maybe even, if they could only get 5 more units on theirs, it would still be 5 more units.
And this is all the ground the county owns here, right? We don't own that pit.
No,
No,
That
it's
went
just
to
the old
somebody else.
recycling.
but to
Yeah.
have a cohesive development that would be their property
Yeah.
and our property, both would be beneficial to them for
Everybody.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think we ask for, if we're going to donate the ground, maybe we ask for 1 unit or 2 units specifically for Valley County employees in either our ownership or they manage it, but with our, they have to reserve that for our employees. I don't know what you guys think about that before I go and talk to them, but
Well, if you got 12 to 20, I guess my feelings would be I'd want more than 1.
okay. So 2, at least
2 or
2.
3.
Are there any ratios that are out there, like a 1 per 10 kind of thing, or 10%? I think that's a number that I've seen in the past.
Is it? Okay. I don't know that. So that's a good call. I'll try and research that, or if you have anything that you can think of.
I'm trying to think where I saw that.
Okay,
But Catherine has been really great help with the Springs
awesome.
when we did all that, and they were interested in doing more at that time. I think the big issue right now is the cost of building materials.
Right.
I think a lot of folks are backing off just to wait for that to hopefully come back down.
So I know, have been researching some different types of stuff. They actually researched the container homes. So I will ask her what they're doing in other areas right now, what possibility there is. Honestly, I don't think the housing costs are going to come down very much. So I think it's going to stabilize, but I don't think housing materials are going to come way back down again. So people are going to have to get used to a new normal here, in my opinion. Just after researching everything. Lumber's steadied. It's not increasing like it was, but it hasn't come down either, so.
And it's interesting because you talk to those guys that run the mills and they can't get a 3rd shift. Nobody wants to work that last shift.
Hopefully now that the bump on unemployment is expired, people will be willing to come back to work. And then the other thing, so I told you guys about the sewer out on the Lake Fork site. So Oki, and I can't remember, is that on our agenda to discuss the emergency?
No.
So Brian sent out what it would require to do an emergency declaration on housing for Valley County. Did you guys have a chance to read that?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know your thoughts on that. Right now, in my opinion, Valley County is an emergency situation as far as housing for employees here.
I have never seen, I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and I've never seen as many people living in the woods as we have right now in state land.
And we have
People in
droughts.
private lots with,
Yeah, and we have droughts.
And that's what I was going to say. We've got
campfires,
campfire
you've got-
hazards big time.
Yeah. The environmental impacts of people being out there, if they're not properly maintenance.
I'm in favor of moving forward on that, but I think that we need to figure out a way to control it, whether it's through the employer, so that we know that these folks that we're inviting to live on that property are gainfully employed somewhere in Valley County. And then also determine how long we want to keep that open. I think winter is going to be a big determining factor, but I think that if we called it, end of October or something like that, that seems like put some, end dates on that.
We can only go 182 days.
Right, that's 6.
Yeah, basically 6 months. And I don't know, also, I found out that, so we were hoping to get showers and toilets out there, but I guess a lot of those units are under contract with the Forest Service for fires.
That's what I was just gonna
So, I
say
mean,
too, is
They could be yanked at any time.
if we wanted to do that, we would need to get on that immediately. And then, yeah, determine whether or not those would be pulled out from under us if they do get called out. Because some of them, I think they have extras. There's 2 or 3 different companies, I think, based out of Riggins that are offering shower units and toilet units. And I know they primarily deal with Forest Service for fire camps, but if they have any, like, extra ones sitting around that aren't on contract right now.
I was looking at, if the county could purchase one, but I guess they're more than $100,000.
They're expensive.
That's crazy.
As I say, there's a shower setup sitting on the side of the road in Riggins right now. I drove through there yesterday.
Well, and the other thing is maybe we call North Dakota. I mean, how many of them are sitting in North Dakota on someplace that,
Wonder if Rod and Anna Butler would have any input on that, because they've been doing a lot of searching as far as what kind of units are available. And I talked to Rod last week.
I also reached out to Tom White. He hasn't returned my call to find out what the health district would allow, like just a vault toilet for now. I guess there's bladders out there that you actually can hook up to campers and then just have them pumped every week or two. So I don't know if Central District Health would allow us to do that. I don't know.
That's a good question. I think it's probably a possibility. I think the issue, more is the water source for all this. Where they
Good call.
can't just hook a hose on the side of the county.
No, as I say, we would need electrical and water.
Yeah.
And then some sort
That's
of
not gonna
water.
happen this
bathroom
summer.
facility. There's no drillers
The
available.
other thing is, Cindy, is there something that we could do in our ordinance on a temporary basis to allow people to do shared residential? Let somebody park on your place, a fifth wheel that they could hook up to your water and your electrical. And I don't know how you're gonna do sewer. They'll have to go and empty it once a month or something, but.
Right. I had this discussion with Oki with the emergency moratoriums and ordinances. It was quite a lengthy discussion. You might want to delve more into that, because if you have an ordinance to suspend the ordinance that requires the conditional use permit, it's not just effective to you. Anybody could set up these camps without some sort of guidance. You can't just do something for Valley County. It has to be, Davis could, Hasbrook could.
But couldn't it be site specific, and then each site would be kind of reviewed independently?
Well, that's what the conditional use permit process is all about. No, it's a
suspension.
when we did the
of whole
moratorium
ordinance. Wow.
before, it was to allow us time to put in an ordinance for cell towers. It's putting everything on hold until you get something in place. So what you're trying to do is get rid of the ordinance.
Temporarily suspends everything.
Right, so, that word peril in that paragraph was, something we kind of focused on intimate peril, imminent peril.
Cindy, can we do a moratorium on any more Airbnbs?
No, that's a state statute.
State statute.
But if somebody wants to let somebody park alongside their house in Valley County, we don't care.
As long as they don't park more than 2, right?
Right, if you have more than 1, 2 or 3, then you need the RV.
Okay, so
Be
1
permitted.
is okay.
But that has to be for friends and family. If you're going to rent it out for a commercial use, then you need the conditional use permit.
And that's part on that I'm having an issue with, because, if 2 contractors that are building my sister's house want to park on the ranch and live in their fifth wheel, they can't do that.
Yes, they can, because they're contractors. Contractors can live on site while they're building something.
On the side of the house.
Yes.
But they can't come over and live in my ranch
No,
where I
but-
have power and a hose and all that stuff to hook up to. That's
No.
the issue. At the site, they usually don't have power. Well, most of them do have power eventually, but
Is her property part of the Hasbrook Ranch?
it's in the middle of it, yeah.
So it's not.
But she hasn't even got a road built to it.
Right.
You know, there's a point where it works, but there's a beginning point where it doesn't work. And so they've got to have the foundation guys and the well drillers and all those people need someplace to live while they're doing
They
that
can
work.
camp on site while they're here working during the week.
Have to dump and fill on the weekends.
And I don't have an issue with that. It's not hard to hook onto it and go to the dump and come back and set it back up. A couple hours. But
Actually can do that. Needed to have one. It's not the greatest, scene and everything. They have power and have water. So, there are showers with them. Let's say that we hired a code and needed a place to stay. Housing.
Okay, that's good to know.
But that's something you have to allow everybody else to do also. So I guess it would be an ordinance that says you can allow your employees to live in RVs so long as they can hook up to your services. But then you get into that septic issue.
Right.
And how big is your septic system?
There's no good answers right now to any of this. It's just horrible.
People can, if someone has a bare lot, they can rent their bare lot to one RV.
does that change your classification though? Like if you from egg to something else?
No, but if they
'Cause
have
it's not
two
permanent.
RVs, they've created a recreational vehicle park and they need the conditional use permit. But a bare lot, they can rent out their property.
Well, I think some of the new RVs
Trailers,
and stuff that they're making now are nicer than my home. They're
I
really
live in
pretty-
my RV.
Wow.
So there was some, Butlers had some of these units, I think out of North Dakota, one bedroom, one bath, and we're not gonna be able to find a place for them either.
They are an RV, I believe because of the size of their axle, and they can be transported down the road. I know that Anna talked to Annette, and that was her determination, like a park model is how she was going to treat those. But again, do you have a septic system? Because you can't just pull those on and off.
Right.
So the holding tanks, that would be a central district health issue.
Well, you'd still need water and electrical hookups for those
Sure.
too. I mean, those are like wiring a house.
Like a park model.
You have any ideas? I used to think that this was more an employer issue than an employee issue, but now I can see that it's everybody's issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having a conversation with the governor's office on Friday about what the state can do to help mitigate some of these impacts. And without changing legislation to restrict short-term rentals, what is that other pillar that we can create to help encourage and empower people to use their properties for long-term instead of short-term? So some of the ideas that we've had so far is allowing counties to make decisions on whether you want to negate some property taxes. If you have an issue paying, an owner's property taxes if they'll go longer than a 12-month contract. What all does it say? I'd love your guys' input on this. And we will be discussing this at the Commissioners
Have you got like a
Convention.
list built?
I do. I have an
You can
actual
Send that to us so we could
resolution.
all comment on it.
I will do that. And
So
I'll
you
send it
guys are going to
you
do
too.
a tax decrease if they're renting properties?
If it's a long-term
commercial?
rental, can we do a tax decrease?
Yeah.
Maybe 20%. I don't know what that number is,
It's
but,
going to be legislation looked at this next year. That's what we're pushing
but on the
for.
other end, I think we need to look at the tax rate that Airbnbs are paying because now they're really more of a commercial use than a residential use.
And that's one of them is identifying those for commercial use versus residential. Passing county lot taxes. So there's quite a few ideas here that we'll be discussing, and would love to have your guys' input on that.
So when you do an Airbnb permit, do they have to report anything annually to you? Like gross income or anything like that?
No, once a year they have to renew their permit, but they have to pay sales tax to the state of Idaho.
Sales tax on what? Revenue?
Mhm.
Well, there is a way to
There
track
is
that
a sales
data.
tax, yes.
And then they don't get the homeowner's exemption, so they're paying more property tax in that.
I
in
don't
that
know
way,
if they
but-
get, I wouldn't guarantee that.
Oh, really?
I don't know that they cross wires.
Well, how can you have a Airbnb? Well, I guess you could do a primary
It's a single-family
residence.
residence.
Yeah.
You
You're
list it
just-
as your primary because it's worth more than your other house somewhere else? Ugh,
Don't you have to live in the house 6 months or longer
I can't
to
speak
get
to that.
homeowners?
I don't think so.
I thought it was 6 months and a day.
I don't think so. But that's not, I don't know for sure. You should ask June that one.
Well, I would assume that would be one I'd put on my list, is that if you're gonna be a full-scale Airbnb, you don't even qualify for homeowner's exemption or circuit breaker.
Mhm.
Don't even come close, but.
But I know that, some people have places in Boise and some of them have them up here. And they typically choose the homeowner's exemption on their properties in Boise.
You guys know
Our
most
taxes
of the
are
people
lower.
that talk about, I lost my house, but they're gonna sell it, I gotta move out. Are they single people or are they families? Or are
A
they?
lot of families.
Families.
So doing like a spare bedroom rental thing wouldn't really work for a family, would it? Or mother-in-law quarters or something like that, maybe.
And
we should
no,
encourage mother-in-law quarters, and we
I
should
do all the time.
encourage, yeah,
Always.
people with, yeah.
And a lot of that really is the septic. It's the septic
It's all
that
about the
really
septic.
determines how many bedrooms you can have on a piece of ground.
Everything's about the septic or the sewer.
Yeah.
But, even the CUP applications I get for commercial uses, I encourage them to put some employee housing on them. All about the septic and the sewer.
Every time we have this conversation, I get more and more depressed. There are no good solutions.
No, but everybody's thinking about it and something's gonna pop up. We just gotta keep working on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's great you're going to the governor to see if there's something legislatively we can do, change
say you
values
guys
or change
added-
taxes or something. You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, we gotta start somewhere. And some of these new subdivisions that are coming in, I'm asking, put some affordable housing in there. We need somebody to start, maybe gifting to the housing trust some of these units as they come in, or establishing some local housing. But the last conversation I had was, well, it'll start at 450,000. That's local housing. That's not local housing. And unfortunately, it's probably gone up from there because that was months ago. So,
I'm going to go back to the Terry Gestrin days. And he said, and because we had the same issue back in those days, the answer is mobile home parks.
agreed. How come we're not getting any applications for mobile home parks?
Full value.
Septic and sewer.
So, but there should be capacity within people's sewer.
The sewer
Some.
district, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy
I-
up here is going to put in 18, but they're on back order.
Well, and that's because he had a hard time. Oh, yeah, probably the units. People have had a hard time getting financing for mobile home parks. And I think that there is a need. RV parks and all that kind of stuff.
I was talking to somebody about one the other day. Oh, I know where it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
even
now
deals
application.
like leisure time, those are actually pretty good deals to have in your community, but
Absolutely.
now the values have gone so high in there, it's like, wow, who'd have thunk?
But still, if somebody could take, 10 acres, 20 acres, and put in enough units, somebody can buy a manufactured home, a nice brand new manufactured home for $120,000. You put strong CCNRs in it, and it can work for local still. We have to have stuff under $300,000. Has to hit that price point. So we're gonna have to encourage any and everything that people could do.
They do.
Yeah, I
Anything
know.
like that. They come in with these subdivisions. I say, well, make some smaller lots. Make some smaller lots that are more affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm encouraging smaller lots also.
Hey, we got to move on. We have a public hearing here in 5 minutes ago. We still on for that, Cinda?
Yes.
So why don't you come on up and we'll get set up for that.
Welcome to Lifestyle. Enter the extension of joining the meeting.
So I take it the applicant is online, on the phone?
She was going to call in, Mr. Chairman.
And what's your name?
Gail Starkey.
Gail? Gail, are you on the phone? Cody or Lisa Lindley, are you on the phone?
We are, yes. Cody is on the phone.
Okay, and is Gail going to join us, Cody?
I don't think so. She was struggling getting dialed in.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and announce the public hearing. Cody, the way this will work is we'll go through, the staff will give us a presentation. We'll have time for questions for her, and then we'll go towards the applicant, anything that you want to add, and then we open up for those opposed, those who are neutral, and those who are for this, and then we'll close the public hearing after that and begin deliberations. You understand the process?
Yes, I do.
So at this time, I will open up the public hearing for vacation application 21-02. At this time, I'll ask the other commissioners if they have any ex parte or conflict of interest.
I do not.
I do not.
And I do not either, so at this time, we'll turn it over to Cinda to give us a staff presentation.
Okay, the vacation application 2102, vacation of a drainage easement in the Westwood subdivision number 2. The applicants are Gail Starkey, Cody Lindley, and Lisa Lindley. The property is addressed at 2509 Westwood Drive in the Westwood subdivision number 2 between lots 2 and 6, block 4. Gail Starkey, Cody Lindley, and Lisa Lindley are requesting a vacation of a 12-foot wide drainage easement that is centered on the lot line between lot 2 and 6, block 4 of the Westwood subdivision number 2. The applicants own both lots. Removal of the easement would allow them to build over the lot line and setback area and give them more flexibility in the location of their future garage. Removal of the easement will also allow them to retain more existing trees along the property line on West Mountain Road. Lot 2, Block 4 contains .49 acres, and Lot 6, Block 4 contains .47 acres. Access would be from a driveway off Westwood Drive. The Westwood subdivision number 2 was recorded at Book 12, page 53 on November 14, 2011. Note 6 on the plat states, all lots shall have a 6-foot wide easement adjacent to each side and rear lot line for the purpose of transporting property drainage. And so that's the easement that we're trying to vacate. At a properly noticed public hearing on May 13, 2021, the Valley County Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the proposed vacation. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on May 27th and June 3rd, 2021. Potentially affected agencies were notified on May 17th. Neighbors within 300 feet of the property line were notified by fact sheet sent May 17th. The site was posted on May 27th, and the notice and application were posted online on the Valley County website on May 17th, 2021. Agency comments received. Central District Health has no objection to this proposal. It is actually in the North Lake Sewer District. And then Donnelly Rural Fire Protection District has no comments or concerns. Listed the portion of the Valley County Code here for your consideration. And it states the commission shall review the proposed vacation with regard to the future development of the neighborhood. The commission shall also take into consideration the interests of adjacent property owners, of utilities, and of various public agencies where pertinent to the application. And we had previously vacated one of those drainage easements out here, so someone could do the same thing. In summary, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval. The board needs to determine if the future development of the neighborhood would be inhibited by the vacation. And then I wrote a recommended motion. If you choose to approve this, the effective document would be this Resolution 21-15 that I sent with a package and need your signature for recordation.
Cindy, just one quick question. I know this is kind of downhill from West Mountain Road. Is there any drainage that comes off West Mountain through any of this? No culverts, no?
Pretty flat in that
It's
area.
really
Really flat? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, any more questions for staff? So at this time, I will open up the public hearing. Let's see, do I need to ask Cody? Cody, do you have anything you want to add? As the applicant?
No, I do not.
Okay, so then I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone online or in the audience that is in favor of this? Please let the record show there was none. Is there anyone in the audience or online that is neutral on this application? Let the record show there was none. Is there anyone in the audience or online that is opposed to this? Please let the record show there was none. So if there are any more questions or comments, staff?
The only one I have is that Oki had stated that instead of adopting your P and Z findings, we need to adopt our own in future on these.
All right.
Have you
Well,
added
I
that to
talked
this?
him about that. I don't know why it would be required on something like this, but conditional use permits, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that was for appeals, Sherry.
That was for the appeal thing.
For the
Okay, I
appeals, the
didn't
big
know.
heavy ones.
I'd ask if he'd talk to you, so I thought maybe that would be.
Okay, so I'm gonna close the public hearing then at 11:55 and bring it up for deliberation.
No problem with this whatsoever.
I don't either.
I looked at it as far as the neighbors, and it doesn't look like it impacts the neighbors at all. So,
Can we convince them to put a grandma flat up in the top of their new garage?
What?
Can we put an accessory dwelling unit in the top of their new garage?
They're willing to rent out.
There you go. And staff has provided a motion, a recommended motion. I would
just had
entertain
it,
that.
lost it.
I did talk to Oki about these little ones, but yeah, those big ones, we
okay, I move
kind
to,
of slip through the cracks.
Got it faster than
I move to approve vacation application number 21-02, vacation and drainage easements, accept the planning and zoning commission facts and conclusions, and authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 21-15, declaration of vacation. I read that as vaccination.
Definition of vaccine. Are you guys vaccinated yet? We can't do this. Boy, that would be heavy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Declaration of vacation.
Did you second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All done, Cody. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Doug, I need a notary. Please.
So Susan, if you could get some legislation to assist in that fundamental help with sewers.
Okay,
You know,
now,
like Cascade needs aeration, Donley, you know, we just got through doing that one, they did do the $50,000 grant. But sewer is the key to everything.
yeah, it is.
I mean, even if you set up your
So if
RV
the-
park, I mean, that has to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If they come down to Cascade, they're gonna blow it out.
So,
Judy told me you guys had 50 hookups left before you have to aerate. Is that correct?
Oh, it depends on what you're counting,
Then you've got this 550 that just came on the market, which is gonna,
550 acres.
that could blow it clear out of the water.
Sure.
Are
But
you-
they'll have to pay.
Is the city thinking of a whole separate system for them?
No, they tell us this area, I would love to do a membrane plant.
550 acres that's contiguous with the city?
Already in the city.
Oh,
And then the guy from South Lake Sewer contacted me last week, and he's gonna come in and talk to us about if we can use some of these ARPA funds for South Lake Sewer. Which is
Now, we're
West
going to-
West Mountain and all that, and I'm going, wow, we're gonna start that one up all over again too. But if we can help, we'll try and help.
You know, probably if that same membrane that was proposed, and that was down in that area, I mean, something like
that might be more.
So is that a vibrant district? I mean, is there a district actually collecting funds, managing?
They were, but I don't think they have very much money.
They pay themselves well.
Yeah, it's all.
That's not who we're giving other taxpayer money to then. Yeah,
What was that guy's
let's
name?
get a full,
Bob something.
have to get a full accounting of all of that before.
I asked Larry, I think Larry was gonna get on that board. I know Ashley was the treasurer.
That would change that whole West Mountain.
Last week. For budget.
It changed that whole West Mountain corridor if they were all sewered.
Bob Perkins.
Bob Perkins, very good. Isn't she notorious? Look at this person. She's so notorious.
Yeah, that's my dream, is to be a notary.
You want to see this first?
You want to use mine? I am one, still.
You're going to say your goal was to be notorious.
Already is.
Notorious, not notary, a notorious person. Okay, folks, we're going to break for lunch and we'll see you